Islam, Islam, Islam. I would like to welcome everyone to another Egyptian Adeptus Research Sultanate class. I am Dr. Torre Anu Rasul Simpson Bey. Our return ancient high name is Dr. Kepri Anubis Rasul Bey, National Assistant Grand Chairman of Moorish America, Consul General of the God Allah Georgia Territory. Our host instructor is Dr. Shedu Amenti Muhajisep Shawel. And today's panel will be hosted by the God Allah Georgia Counselor, Islam, Islam. Islam, Islam, family, can you hear me?
Islam, family.
Islam, Islam. Yes, indeed. Your email, Dr. Bati Bey, got to definitely be just like you have it. Come to find out. So all is well. We got you in there. And other than that, how you be, Grandman? Let's see who else we got here. We got Swift Angel number 4. Islam, not Sister Grand Sheik. How you be?
Just as Moorish as ever. All praise be to the great God Allah. Islam. How about yourself?
Oh man, we up and at it, and we're gonna get ready for this Egyptian Adeptus Research Sultanate class. Islam.
Islam. Praise be to Allah. Islam
Praise
is
be. Dr. Bati Bey, sound like you just rising over, Grandman. Are you able to do the prayer? Let's see here. Dr. Gary Myers Bey, Islam, Grandman, how you be?
Show enough, Islam.
Okay, there we go. All right. Dr. Gary Myers Bey, if you don't mind reading the chapter of the week for me, are you able, Grandman?
Islam, all praise be to the great God Allah, honor this holy prophet, noble Jordan, Myers Bay, checking out Appalachian Florida territory. Gratitude, God, man. I'm on my post.
All right, gratitude. All right, Islam, Moorish America. I am Dr. Torre Anu Rasul Simpson Bey, National Assistant Grand Chairman of Moorish America, Consul General of the God Allah Georgia Territory. I want to welcome you to another Egyptian Adeptus Research class. And we give all praises to our Father, God Allah, and honors to our holy prophet, noble Ali, honors to our Moorish American government, and honors to all of you that are here, uplifting fallen humanity. Islam, Islam. But at this time, we're going to start off by opening up the way with Dr. Bati Bey reciting our Egyptian Adeptus Moorish American prayer. Islam, Grandman, are you there?
Islam. This is Dr. Bati Bey with our territory for our demise. Give our man a praise to Allah. Honors to the Prophet, honors to our theocratic government, our World Council, our flag, seal, emblem, our divine constitution, swift angels, muftis, citizens alike. Honors to all the Moors here and there, and honors to Georgia Consulate for this class and our teacher, our master teacher at this class. Islam. Like one. The comedian adept prayer. Ya Allah abnu haru makunetaru. Ya Allah abhed haru. Ya Allah ma'at haru. Ya Allah hotep haru. Ya Allah haru. Ya Allah ma'at haru kuti. Ya Allah awa jejejuti. Ya Allah pertim sutek pertim haru. Ya Allah bamaduti. Al hadis subsis reyab tu Ali. Ameen. Alisa. And that is to say, O Allah, the Father of the universe, O Allah, the Father of love, O Allah, the Spirit of truth, O Allah, the Spirit of peace, O Allah, the Spirit of freedom, O Allah, the Spirit of justice, O Allah, you are my protector, O Allah, you are my God, O Allah, you are my salvation by night and by day, O Allah, through your holy prophet, O Allah, Drew Ali. Ameen. Holy Isa, Holy Isa, Holy Isa. And with this, I would like to turn this meeting back over to our assistant chairman for his portion of the meeting.
Islam, Grandman, and gratitude for opening up the way with our Moorish American Egyptian Adeptus prayer. Islam. Well, I come before you with the divine constitution of Moorish America, salvation, our God, unity. Act 1. The Grand Sheik and the chairman of Moorish America are empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the grand body of Moorish America. The assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs, if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the citizens of Moorish America. Act 2, the bylaws. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly, according to the Circle 7, and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest, because on a Friday, the first man was formed in flesh. And on the Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended into his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all citizens of Moorish America. No citizen is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All citizens must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all citizens must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. No organization of Moorish Americans to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all citizens must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folk, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites, whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All citizens must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a partial of all uplifting acts of Moorish America. Moorish Americans must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of Moorish America, and then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your...
Hey, put your helmet on. Put your helmet on.
Islam. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother. Let me see. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and become industrious and be industrious and become a part of all of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and the bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God Allah. Prophet Noble Drew Ali, peace and blessings be upon him, founder, father, and framer of the divine constitution and bylaws of Moorish America. And now that this meeting has been opened according to Act 2 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, we say Islam, Islam, Islamism. And at this time, we're going to have Dr. Gary Myers Bay, Council General of the Florida Territory, to read the chapter of the week, Islam.
Gratitude, God, man. All praises be to the great God, Allah, honor to his holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Islam, Islam, Islam. Once again, I rise and I give praise to the almighty great God, Allah. I give the highest honors to his holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, his high name, Sheikh El Haj Sharif Abdul Ali. I give high honors to the greatest forerunner ever, Marcus Mosaic Garvey L. I give high honors to our theocratic Moorish American government. I give high honors to Act 1, our divine constitution bylaws, our government official staff, and citizens. And I also give high honors to our National Assistant Grand Chairman for this platform for today, and also give high honors to our National Assistant Grand Sheikh, Dr. Shadu Aminti Amahid Shepsuel, for hosting our ears class. And I give honors to all the Moorish kin that help open this class, and I give honors to everything that is Moorish, all my Moorish kin here, there, everywhere. Islam, Islam, Islam. SubhanAllah. I give honors to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice too. And our Moorish flag, grand emerald, grand seal, everything that is Moorish. Islam, Islam, Islam. I am Divine Minister Dr. Gary Myers Bay, Consul General, Apalachicola, Florida Territory, and I'll be reading from our Moorish Holy Quran, chapter 22, the meeting of the seven sages to make laws for the coming age for the nations of the earth. Now, when the sages were refreshed, they opened up the book of life and read. They read the story of life, of man, of all the struggles, losses, gains, and in light of the past events and needs, they saw what would be best for him in coming years. They knew the kind of laws and precepts suited to his estate. They saw the highest Allah idea that the race could comprehend. Upon the seven postulates These sages were to formulate the law of life of the coming ages that souls may rest. Now, Mishdai was the oldest sage. He took the chair of chief and said, man is not far enough advanced to live by faith. He cannot comprehend the things he sees. SubhanAllah, he cannot comprehend the things he eyes sees not. Yet he is a child, and during all the coming age must be taught by pictures, symbols, rites, and forms. He must be a human God. SubhanAllah. His God must be a human God. He cannot see Allah by faith. He cannot rule himself. The king must rule. The man must serve. The age that follows this will be an age of man, the age of faith. In that blessed age, the human race will see without the aid of carnal eyes, will hear the soundless sounds, will know the spirit Allah. The age we enter is the preparation age, and all these schools must be designed in a simple way that man may comprehend. And man cannot originate. He builds by patterns that he can see. So in this council, we must carve out patterns for the coming age, and we must formulate the Godnos, the Godnos of the entire of the soul, which rests on seven. Each sage in turn shall form a postulate, and these shall be the basis of the creed of men until the perfect age shall come. Then Mishdai wrote the first. All things are thought. All life is thought activities. The multitude of beings are but phases of the one great thought made manifest. Lo, Allah is thought, and thought is Allah. Then Vedapiti wrote the second postulate. Eternal thought is one. In the essence, it is two, intelligence and force. And when they breathe, a child is born. This child is love. And thus the triune Allah stands forth, whom men call Father, Mother, Son. This triune Allah is one, but like the one of light, in the essence, he is seven. When the triune Allah breathes forth, lo, seven spirits stands before his face. These are creative attributes. Men call them lesser gods, and in their image, they made man. And Casper wrote the third. Man was a thought of Allah formed in the image of the Septuagint, subhanAllah, the Septuagint, clothed in the substance of soul, and his desires were strong. He sought to manifest on every plane of life, and for himself, he made a body of the ethers of the earthly form, and so he descended to the plane of earth. In this descent, he lost his birthright, lost his harmony with Allah, made discordant all the notes of life. Inharmony and evil are the same, so evil is the handiwork of man. As Spina wrote the fourth, seeds do not germinate in light. They do not grow until they find the soil and hide themselves away from the light. Man was evolved a seed of everlasting life, but in the ethers of the triune Allah, the light was far too great for the seeds to grow. And so man sought the soul of carnal life, and in the dark someness of the earth, he found a place where he could germinate and grow. The seed has taken root and grown full well. The tree of life is raising from the soil of earthly things, and under natural law is reaching up to perfected form. There is no supernatural acts of Allah to lift man from carnal life to spirit blessedness. He grows as grows the plant, and in due time is perfected. The quality of the soul that makes it possible for man to rise to spirit life is purity. And I just read chapter 22 of our Moorish Holy Quran, the meeting of the seven sages to make laws for the coming age for the nations of the earth. Gratitude and peace and love to all my Moorish kin. Islam.
Islam and gratitude, Dr. Jeremiah Bey, for the reading of the week, chapter 22. meeting of the seven sages to make laws for the coming age for the nations of the earth. Islam. Well, at this time, without further ado, we're going to call forth our host for this Egyptian Adeptus Research Sultanate class, our National Assistant Grand Sheikh of Moorish America, Dr. Shadu, Aminta Al Muhajjiseb Shuel. Islam, Grand Man, are you there? If you're speaking, we can't hear you, Grand Man.
Islam, can you hear me now?
Islam, loud and clear. Floor is yours.
Gratitude. But let us rise upon the seven and give all praises to the great God Allah, Father God Allah, and honors to his holy prophet. Honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, El Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali, that is. We give honors to our Moorish kin once again, here, there, and everywhere, and therefore honors to all of you who are continuously honoring yourselves by being yourselves. We give honors to our Grand National Seal, Grand National Emblem, National Flag, Divine Constitution, and bylaws, and honors to all of you who are indeed a living manifestation and personification of everything. And I do mean everything that our holy prophet brought to make us a nation. I want to welcome you again to another Egyptian Adeptus Research Sultanate session, Moorish kin. And we give honors to all of our Moorish kin on the manifest, that are here to uplift fallen humanity. All praise be to the great God Allah, Islamism. And it's definitely a grand measure to build with our Moorish kin as we continue to go into the language, the herein KEMET, which most people know as the Hieratic language. And this is actually going into a whole nother phase of the measure to give our grand kin some insight. But we always like to open up with readings from the Book of Fire. And want to ask our Moorish kin to volunteer to read from our Book of Fire. And we can actually, Islam? Okay, all right. Gratitude, Grand Man. Okay, so we're gonna start. I just want to make sure I got everything in perspective. Okay, we're gonna start on page 372. So you can start with, and the word was Porn Greek, right? And you can go from 372, my brother, over to 376. And you can actually stop at the bottom of 376. And then, better yet, you may as well go to 377 and stop above the adept deification of man. You know what? I want to equally distribute this, so we ain't gonna do that. We'll stop you above the 7 degrees of self-mastery on 376. And then we'll have another one of our Moorish kin to volunteer to come through. Islam, is there any other?
Islam,
right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, Grand Man.
Okay, yeah, I'd volunteer.
Okay, yes, sir. So we'll have you come from 376 to 7 degrees of self-mastery to the divine ministry. And you can read all the way over to 377 at the bottom of the page.
Islam.
You know what? You may as well finish that out and go to 378 above Moors in prostration. Islam.
Islam.
Okay, and one more.
Islam.
Islam, Grand Man.
Islam.
Yes, sir. Islamism. You can actually start at 378 Moors in prostration and go over to 380. And you can actually stop above Hebrew or Jew.
Islam.
Islamism. All right, Grand Man. Brother Torre Simpson Bay, you may proceed.
All right, Islam. All right, page 372. And the word was Keon Greek. All right. And most, subhanAllah, it must be understood that slaves do not have choices. This holds especially true for those labeled Black and Negroes. Therefore, Christianity, which as a negative of Commission Egyptian three-step picture from man to God, Moorish Holy Quran 7:25-31 ayats, was forced upon them. The true teachings of Prophet Moses, Solomon, David, Yehoshua, and other Egyptian adepts were translated through Hellenistic Greek 400 BC to 4th AD by what Alexander the Greek 356 to 323 BC, Aristotle 384 to 322 BC, so Socrates 469 to 399, and Plato 428 to 347 could decipher from their lying eyes. By the time this hoax of Greek philosophy was poisoned into the Roman Catholic order, it gave birth to Christianity. The majority of modern day Christianity, as it is currently advertised as the Word of God, is focused upon an array of cultural misnomers of ancient Moorish civilizations, especially Egypt, which was the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa. Chapter 47. It must be clearly understood that 500 AD to 200 AD, the Greeks didn't know jack about being civilized. In fact, the Egyptians were educating many Greeks before and after the invasion by Alexander the Greek. Yes, I said the Greek. Being of Moorish descent and author of this book, I cannot see a former guest / turned conqueror of my people as great. Thus, he's just Alexander the Greek. Then the Romans added their seasonings to this religious dish of Christianity. The Italians translated the Greek misnaming of Egyptian sciences into Latin, from the Roman Empire to the Roman Catholic Church through the Renaissance and on into the English language. A people's language expressed the totality of their understanding and determines their prosperity. And if one's language does not capture the essence of another language, then its truth will not be conveyed. The accuracy and the timing will not be in the translations. Without truth, one is subject to deception and hypocrisy. The original Bible was not the word of God, but in reality, it was the words of the Greeks. Today's Bible is often called the word of God, and no one can tell its millions of faithful NBC people other than that it is God's word. Little do they realize the wages of inaccurate history is a darkened future. As vividly revealed later in this chapter, it was the Greeks, not God, who wrote the first Bible, albeit the so-called Black people are mere readers of the word and not its authors. Most fail to see the impossibility in reading any manuscript without absorbing the opinion of its author. Needful to say, the Greek misinterpreted slant to Moses's revelations of the ancient Egyptian mysteries are a far cry from the soul perfecting degrees of the ancient African words. Therefore, it is a dire necessity when studying history, one must take into account all the surrounding times, peoples, and conditions in order to ensure the validity of that history. This is why Muslims teach Quranic Arabic to all Islamic converts, no matter their national tongue. As a result, they will receive the full flavor of Allah's message through his holy prophet Muhammad. There are many words in the Arabic language that cannot be transliterated into English, Latin, Spanish, etc., without losing some or all of their potencies, especially English, which is well known as the mutt or bastard language of the planet. The history of religion. Islamism, the first religious creed on earth, Islam. Prior to the advent of Noble Drew Ali, the so-called Negroes, Blacks, and colored people assumed the church and Christianity, which had been forced upon them during the time of slavery, was their own religion. With this faith came their pale-skinned, blue-eyed Lord and Savior, Yehoshua Christ, a Western name for Yehoshua. They were correct from the slave perspective of NBC. These religious tenets did in fact belong to slaves, for slaves, and about the earthly salvation of slaves. This is to say, at best, When any slave has been saved, redeemed, or reached salvation, he or she will still be officially an NBC slave. A saved slave, albeit recognized as a good Christian, is still just a slave. The truth is one must first be free before they can enter the gates of heaven. Bear in mind, freedom is not attained through the service of another man's God. And exactly what church or Christianity has freed an NBC to be an autonomous nation of people. This is why Noble Drew Ali taught the Moorish about their own religious creed, their own God, and the only true heaven. Every nation has its inherent religion, but they have first come to the realization they are indeed a nation. Question 17, what is our religion? Islamism. Question 18, is that a new or is that the old time religion? Answer, old time religion. In 1865, when US slavery was abolished, the ex-slaves were without the religion of their forefathers, and subsequently being without their own religion, they blindly continued to serve the gods of their former slave masters. The abolishment of the institution of slavery in no way replaced the 2/5 nationality and divine creed. Denationalized from the Africans, which left them as only 3/5 of all other persons. The church and Christianity haven't been forced upon them during their centuries of captivity was the only system of religion they knew. Unfortunately, it is a historical fact the religion of any slave government was never constituted with powers to free its slaves. No more now, more than 145 years later, not one of the 1 million plus NBC of the cloth, with very few members of their congregation, question why they will never be free while under the same government that enslaved them, especially as they have faithfully served another man's God. Islamism, as the world's first religious creed, was pronounced Hotep. Hotep is the holistic science or study of peace. Hotep translates into the Arabic language as Islam. Islam became the Arabian name of the old-time religion, as it was perfected for Arabians by the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Surah 5, Ayat 3, he chose Islam from the African ancient monotheistic sciences to the people of Havala, Arabia, because they had strayed away from this straight way to Allah as taught by his African forefathers. In fact, Muhammad was a direct descendant of Hagar, the Egyptian goddess which mothered Ishmael, first true son of Abraham. Readers must bring to mind the roots of Hotep began millenniums before Kemet became the center of the world's greatest teachings and civilizations. The name Kemet translates into Kingdom of God, Lord of the gods or God of gods, which modern man calls Egypt. They referred to the creator as Allah Dumare or Nature. This translation is a true foundation for the Islamic fundamental. There is no God but Allah, and Allah is the father of the universe, as brought to the Moorish Americans by Noble Drew Ali. Angels are true beings. The station of angel is a status held in harmony with its original creative destiny. They are celestial thoughts of the great God and are often manifest in flesh filled with melanin. An angel is the highest station of man, expressing the will of divinity. Commissioned adepts that were sent to various nations in need of realignment with the oneness of this great God were called angels. They were Muslims whose will could only obey the will of the great God. The most noted angelic stations of these Africans were entitled Gabriel or Michael. Angels bring, defend, and teach messages to prophets that are necessary to redeem their nation. The messages were always about Hotep or Islamism, and the messengers were always olive-skinned brothers or sisters called angels. Page 374, Islamism, the first religious creed. Jumping over to 375, Islamism, by the numbers. The true mystery system of Egypt, which Noble Drew Ali, an Egyptian adept master called Islamism, is found dated upon the science of numbers. Men comprehend the dynamics and origin of infinity by understanding numbers. The equation science of numbers gives rise to all seen and unseen worlds. Geometry, algebra, and arithmetic are the thrones for astronomy, medicine, architecture, calendars, arts, religion, creation, civilization, order of the universe, and harmonies of life. All are contingent upon numbers. The mystery system of Egypt acquires its strength from the 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. These are the strong numbers because they cannot be divided evenly, unlike the 2, 4, 6, and 8. Here are a few examples of the creative powers of those positive numbers. The 1, origin, creator, causeless cause, rootless root. 3, the 3. There are always 3 steps on the master's carpet. The triune Allah, wisdom, will, and love. Egyptian, initiation, illumination, and perfection. Yehoshua, belief, faith, and fruition. Drew Ali, member, sheikh, and adept. Mastery, knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. Freemasonry, apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason. Christianity, Islam's natural enemy, is structured in illusions of the 3-step Egyptian mastery system. Its European churches assert the Trinity of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. This God has only one begotten Son named Yehoshua, who was created in Rome's Vatican with pure European features. These are just too many gods to serve. This man-made threesome is colloquially known as the white man. They are made in the likeness and image of European interest. Freemasonry, the masterful liberal arts degree of Christian science, and the chief protector of the Christian creed, also functions upon a semblance of the Egyptians' initiation, illumination, and perfection. The 3 degrees in all of Freemasonry is under the auspices of apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason. See Freemasonry. Here in the night lodges, Masons secretly don the ancient Moorish diadem, the fez, that Muslim men have worn openly and freely for thousands of years. The 5 highest principles: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Senses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. Organs: head, right arm, right leg, left arm. Elements: ethereal, fire, water, air, and land. Ruling planets: Venus, Mercury, Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter. North Star: 5 pentagrams, 72 degrees each, equaling 360 degrees. The 7, the ancient Commission Egyptian mystery system. The 7, the 1st degree, the Pastor Force, medicine and science. 2nd degree, Neochorus, geometric energy, shapes, structures, and designs. 3rd degree, Melanophorus, science of non-polarized energies. Examples given: time, finite duration between life and death. 4th degree, Christophorus, inherent laws of growth. Relativities from light as sound. Examples given: vegetation, music, colors, crystals, and metals. 5th degree, Belahat, science of nature and alchemic laws, logic, and the philosophy of transmutation and realization of simplicity from the most complex. 6th degree, Astronomos, the manipulation of the cosmic powers in harmony with the human body and other living things. The Polaris interaction balance with the body and the galaxies, the study of stimulative or sedative ethers. 7th degree, Prophetic, the wisdom of God and man, the right of Emmanuel, adept, and prophethood, conquest of self, God realization, the Christ. These are the 7 degrees of the ancient Egyptian mystery system. The 7 represents the totality of divine creation. The ancient ones developed the curriculum for their 7 degrees from the completed circle of creation. There were 7 days in the cycle, which totals everything made. Each day marked the completion of an internal life form from its alpha to omega. There are only 7 days in a year. There are Saturday, They are Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. There are 7 creative spirits with their 7 ethereal planes. The 7 infinite thoughts of Allah, which created everything that ever was, is, or evermore to be. The ancient Hebrew calls these thoughts Elohim. The adepts call them the 7 eyes of Allah. Man calls these ether planes the planes of protoplasm, earth, plant, beast, man, angel, and cherubim. Moore's Holy Quran 11, 19 through 38. There are 7 chakras sealed within the human body. These chakras are fixed from the base of the spine, upright through the heart of the mind. Yehoshua said, man couldn't resurrect until the fixed is solved. Moore's Holy Quran 1737. The ancient Siddha gurus called these astral body of lights. Each must be lightened with wisdom. See third eye. There are also 7 sounds on the master music scale. All the audibles heard by the ears of man are the summation of these sounds, 7 colors in the spectrum. These constitute everything seen by human eyes. Without these colors, the human sentinels are useless. 7 senses for the conscious man, 5 below the eyebrow, sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch, and 2 above the eyebrows, intuition and telepathy. 7 degrees in the adept chamber of the Moorish Science Temple of America, adept chamber of the MSTLA, third heaven, question 56. The degrees of high consciousness in Drew Ali's third heaven are identical to the ancient Egyptian mystery system, developed by the first African gods to be formed in flesh. This origin is held by the old Hebrews as a story of Adam and Eve. Noble Drew Ali brought these degrees of God attainment in the missing 18 years of Yehoshua life, omitted from the Bible. The lessons are found in his life, works, and teachings of Yehoshua by Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali. Islam, Islam, Islam.
Islam, finally giving all praise to the great God Allah, giving our honor to the Prophet, our Prophet, Muhammad, that's how it should be felt. We give honor to our theocratic government, our more American government. We give honor to our Act 1. We give honor to all of our, give honor to the class, our ears class. As well as I give honor to all those that aided and bring towards our class next. And honor to that story today for our platform. Honor to our instructor, Dr. Mickey, I'm going to for hosting. Okay. I give honor to everything that's there. Flag, still, him, number 9, Constitution, Holy Quran, Leah 101, 102. Like zooming up a nation, all about divine revelation. I give honor. And of course, to our forerunner, I give honor, as well as our ancestors, who showed us to stand apart. Here's our more. Now begin. 7 degrees of self-mastery to the divine ministry. First degree, sincerity, chapter 14. Second degree, justice, chapter 15. Third degree, faith, chapter 16. Fourth degree, philanthropy, chapter 17. Fifth degree, heroism, chapter 18. Sixth degree, love divine, chapter 19. Seventh degree, ministry of death, divine ministry, chapter 20, 21, prophecy. We cannot omit the Aquarian age as the 7th of time, known and prophesied by the ancient royal science, which was followed 2,000-year Piscean age. Piscean age symbolized.
Got a lot of distortion in the background.
A lot of distortion.
Yeah,
Hold on one second.
Okay, sound like a scanner. I'm like, it's love.
Better?
It's still scratchy, but it's not. Let me see. It doesn't sound too loud now. It's loud.
What about now? Any better?
That's a little better. It's loud.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what's going on. Well, I know what's going on, but some things, you got to work with. Okay, I'll continue. So I was at the Piscean age, symbolized by the sign of the fish, represents the period when man's consciousness would travel by seas and waterways. The number for Piscean age was 6. The number of the Aquarian age is 7, and it represents the time when man's consciousness would travel by air and other ethereal planes. It would do well to note that true Roman Catholic Mass is based upon 7 sacraments: baptism, reconciliation, Eucharist, confirmation, marriage, ordination, and unction, anointing of the sick. But it's Christian splinter groups, for example, Protestants, Lutherans, Methodists, etc., went back to the 6 and the body of Christ, blood and wine. The original 7 degrees are the ancient God-man Ish and goddess Isha, training lessons of the ancient Moorish and African holistic civilizations. These original his and hers lessons of self-mastery, which all initiates upon completion of these holy instructions were called gods and goddesses. See Adam and Eve. Those who title themselves as white gods without these courses in divinity are imposters, Moorish imitators. The Moorish are the true founders of Islam, Hotep, Islamism. Note, all things created and governed by Allah, the One, derived by the 3, wisdom, will, and love, directed by the holy breath of the 5 principles of actions: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. All rest upon the 7. When man is fully conscious of himself, then he and his creator are in fact one. The deification of man now brings us from 1 through the 3, 5, and 7 to the 9. The 9 is re-entry. 9 is the triune times 3. According to ancient science, the 9 is symbolic of re-entry. The 9 is the conscious rebirth of the God-man, when the God-man of truth attains unto himself, and Allah is all. The 9 is the last whole number before new life, life everlasting. 9 is man leaving the perpetual realms of why to enter his natural state, divine infinity. This numerically marked man's final use for the illusions of time, space, and calculations. The number 9 and the goddess. The woman also symbolizes life encompassing oneself. The woman also symbolizes the life encompassing power of 9. She sits upon the holy throne of goddess when touched by a god. From this exalted station in 9 months, the goddess alone can create and build a temple for Allah without the sound of the hammer or use of a nail. The temple is called man. Man means thinker. In Freemasonry, the Moorish goddess is called the widow. This is because Masons are those disguised as the 3 ruffians that have knocked her African god Hieratic in the head, leaving him civilly dead. See Freemasonry. Today, at best, this goddess of the Nile, 9, being alone without her husband, man or single or widow, is colloquially spoken of as the single mom or my baby's mama or self-proclaimed biatch. See single moms. Nevertheless, this widow is another Western misnomer because man cannot die. The spirit man is one with Allah. And while Allah lives, man cannot die. The human seed that came forth from the heart of Allah, the husbandman of everything that is, threw forth this human seed into the soil of soul. He became the Lord of all the kingdom of the soul. Thus, there can be no widow because Allah is the husbandman. Most Holy Quran, chapter 1. No other woman on planet Mud divinely inherits the title of goddess, save the queens from Africa. The only reason biatch is applied to her in the USA is because in science, a biatch is an unprotected female of any species. Her godman has been displaced and has no current jurisdiction over her and or her children. The 9 being triune times 3 is further illustrated by the 3 stages times 3 degrees of the perfection of man. The adapt deification of man, Allah equals wisdom plus will plus love. Prophet equals initiation plus illumination plus perfection. Man equals belief plus faith plus fruition. Through these steps, times 3 degrees, the ancient ones perfected the mystery systems of Egypt. It was so perfectly developed until it became known as the only straight path, the only straight pathway of perfection. For example, salvation, redemption, or religion. It is the holistic philosophy of these sciences which became the way of life for the ancient Moors over 25,000 years ago. This became the first religious creed that was taught in degrees to initiates over a period of 2 to 3 years esoteric or 12 to 18 years esoteric. Those who were initiated by degrees to, those who were initiated by circumcision and completed the first level of self-mastery received the title of sheikh or adept. Graduates of the higher degrees received the titles of God, Prophet, Christ, Messiah, and their life's work was called divine ministry. Moses, Abraham, Boaz, Jesse, King David, Solomon, Hezekiah, Joseph, John, and Yehoshua, Isa, all received their prophethood from the same Egyptian mystery system. Some, for example, Melchizedek and Yehoshua were of virgin birth of the adepts and received the highest God degree called Christendom. All prophets and Christ were distinguished with their own symbol of perfected man. Moses received the staff, David star, Yehoshua the circled 7, and Noble Drew Ali the circled scimitar and star. Each part of a symbol represented a degree of perfection. The logos is the perfect word. The circle is the pardon self. Okay, let's get back on track here. The circle is the perfect symbol, and 7 is the perfect number. Chapter 13, 2 to 22 to 5. This is the full lotus of God and man, also taught by the Siddha Guru Masters. The Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought the Egyptian mystery system in the highest degree ever known to man and bestowed it upon his people, the Moorish Americans. For the first time in 3 ages, 6,000 years, have these lessons been given to an entire nation of people by their ancient forefathers. He divinely instructed the Moorish Americans. There is no one who is able to change man from the descendant nature of his forefathers. The Moorish Holy Quran 47:11. Being their prophet, his greatest task is to start them to thinking. This ancient system is the old-time religion called Islamism, question 17 to 18. It is not in conflict with the perfecting of your religion in the great Quran of Muhammad, as brought to his sinful polytheistic people of Mecca, Arabia. In fact, Islamism is the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca for the teaching and instructing all Moorish Americans, etc. Moorish Holy Quran 45:1. Islam is a perfected segment of Hotep Islamism. This is the old time religion which Christians sing for. The Moorish, who were ancient Moabites from the lands of Canaan and the founders of the holy city of Mecca, Moorish Holy Quran 45:2, are the true Sunni Muslims. The word Sunni means original, and Muslims are those who submit their will to the will, to the will of the great God Allah. The Moorish are also the founders of the first religious creed, Islamism, historically known as 3 steps on the master's carpet, the ancient Kemetian mystery system. These degrees, once placed upon the 3-step ladder of salvation, the ancient Kemetian mystery system, these degrees, these degrees once placed upon the 3-step ladder of salvation, belief, faith, and fruition, would raise the consciousness of the initiate to the wisdom of self, the higher self. Through the knowledge of the lower self, the illusions of the world which are concerned with time, one would become a mastermind, adept with the grace of God, Allah. This true education is the definition of the word saved, which is the root of salvation. Anyone who claims to be saved is not free with these true knowledge of the selves, is in the feigned redemption of Maya. They are still slaves to sin. Again, written upon the sacred temples and walls of the ancient pyramids of the word Sultan Noti, man, know thyself. The ultimate goals of the Egyptian mystery system and Moorish science, Islamism, are the deification of man. This is the most misunderstood lesson in the Moorish American curriculum. Yet, the value of all their virtues, standards, and principles rests squarely upon mastering this first degree. Drew Ali was the first to bring the ancient principle of Sultan Noti to them, declaring in the voice of their forefathers to first know thyself and thy father God Allah. Prophet Yehoshua, born in Bethlehem of Judah in the house of David, became an Egyptian adept Christ during the 18-year period of his life not found in the Bible. The main reason he was so misunderstood was because he was born during the Piscean age, but his life's works and teachings were the spiritual bridge from man to Allah. It would be 2,000 years before the human family would realize what he has done. All men must do. This is also the reason Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali could not bring a new religion. He brought the ancient science of Islamism, as it was also revealed to him in Egypt. The same revelations given to the Holy Prophet Muhammad by the angel Gabriel in Arabia. Drew Ali simply returned again to the Moorish that which is theirs through inheritance and divine guidance. Moorish Americans often refer to these sacred teachings as the 7 great wonders of the mysteries. Even in congregational prayer, they stand with their eyes open, raised arms with 5 fingers extended on the left hand and 2 fingers on the right, leveled at the eyes. A Moor's diadem head then becomes the world beyond the circle of the sun. 22. This is the prayer stand of all Moorish initiates. All 10 fingers extended with feet at a 45-degree angle is the prayer stance of the adept. Islam.
Islam. As Dr. Bati Bey, praise and honor is previously given. Moors in prostration, yes or no? But do Moors prostrate? Yes. The ancient ones were the first men to prostrate in submissive prayer. communication to the great God. This was his acknowledgement to the universal order. He was nothing like his God self while in human form. Originally, man in his shameful state would submit laying horizontally to the earth while arms and hands outstretched above his head. Later, they would kneel, bow completely from the waist, placing their forehead into a pyramid above his head. Later, pyramid formed by the palms down hands. Prostration was the first method of prayer because it included both physical submission and meditation. The Moorish founders of the first religious creed developed it. Moorish Holy Quran 48:6. Prostration was the only form of prayer used by Noah, Ham, Abraham, Moses, Yehoshua, and all Egyptian adepts. Prophet Muhammad later reintroduced it to the Islamic world. But even when Moors were Hebrews, they prostrated. Prostration also distinguished Muslims who submit their will to Allah from those serving lesser gods. However, Moors do not prostrate when in enemy environment or danger, e.g., under any unstable form of Christian rulership. The Moorish adept, whether standing or on bended knees, is a Muslim first. This means that his will has been consciously submitted to the will of his divine Father Allah. To the adept, prostration takes place first in the heart, and the east is there also. The last prophet in these days taught, where is the nearest place we can meet him? In the heart. Question 4. Conscious Muslims do not prostrate when in enemy camps of Allah. Quran 4, ayat 101 104. This holds especially true for Moorish hostages being constitutionally held by the Reconstruction Amendments of the United States. This is to say, any form of government that supports the enslavement of the Moorish by the fetters of Negro, Black, and colored is an enemy of love, true peace, freedom, and justice. Enemies are to be watched until it is safe to pray. Until such time, the Moorish are their own government on their own land and sheltered by their own security. We will stand to pray while we watch our enemy. Let me read that again. Until such time, the Moorish are their own government on their own land and sheltered by their own security. We will stand to pray while we watch our enemies. European Creed. Christianity via Roman Catholic order is the European religious creed. Noble Drew Ali said, the foundation of Christianity began in Rome. The Roman nations founded the first church, of whom crucified Jesus of Nazareth for seeking to redeem his people from under the Roman yoke of law. Moorish Holy Quran 46:1. By its nature of assured destruction, the cross became the symbol of Christianity. The cross is man-made instrument of death. When the pathways of two or more moving things cross is where chaos, death, and suffering are most certain. The symbol for Catholicism worn by the Pope is the double cross, and the highest number for all the Christendom is the 6. There is no redemption for the children of Africa under the cross. According to the Bible, Roman used the cross to crucify Yehoshua and many thousands of his national brethren. Today's cross is the electric chair, lethal injections, and the serving of gods outside the self. The cross has been legally used by modern Roman executioners on declared convicts and to mark their graves after the legalized murder. For those who do not want Yehoshua to bear the cross alone and can't wait to meet their maker, need only contact their state authority. Perhaps 2,000 years from now, believers in the Roman death penalty will wear a replica of the electric chair or a syringe around their neck as a sign of their God. What? Another 2,000 years of the same old soup warmed over. Surely earth, if not heaven, will pass away. This is not to speak negatively about Europe's Christianity. It must be remembered the church and Christianity was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation. Morse Holy Quran 48:7. Bottom line is the European creed was, is, and never can be of any benefit to descendants of Africans. Islamism is many sciences. Symbols are the embodiment of a multiplicity of thoughts compiled into one single expression. Symbols are man-made emblems that personify the characteristics of a state, condition, era, formulas, etc., which are immaterial. Symbols usually interpret the purpose or use of many things while also showing both its magnitude and limitations. People are accustomed to symbols being around them every day. Most symbols are easily recognized, e.g., the skull and the crossbone represent poison and death. The cross represents Christianity, church or Christianity. The red circle slash represents don't or not allowed. The circle bell represents telephone. The circle blue represents handicap or wheelchair. Symbols have unnumbered meanings and are used to represent the business of man, from highway signs to national flags and from industries to space exploration. But it is the symbol of understanding which most people do not identify nor use effectively. Symbols of understandings are often referred to as architect tools. They are not as commonly known as their kindred symbols of astronomy and astrology. The glory of this trinity of symbols is they all are nourished from the breast of the divine geometry, astronomy, astrology, and architecture, religion, the science of the Moorish. The key to knowing the sciences of the above three sacred schools rests in the knowledge of their history. Noble Drew Ali said, what your ancient forefathers were, you are today without a doubt a contradiction. No one is able to change man from the descendant nature of his forefathers unless his power extends beyond the great creator, Allah himself. Go back to your ancient forefathers' state of mind and accomplish what you will, Islam. The Holy Prophet further added, because our forefathers are the true and divine founders of the first religious creed for the redemption and salvation of mankind on earth. Hence, we the Moorish are returning to Islam, which was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation. Every man needs to worship under his own vine and fig tree. It will also do well to point out for the clarity of our signs and symbols, subject matter. Noble Drew Ali was prepared by the great God, Allah, to bring the true and divine creed of Islam, to teach the old time religion and the everlasting gospel to the sons of men. To know the trinity of symbol aforementioned is to define the science of civilizing used by the ancient ones, which Noble Drew Ali called Islamism. Then perhaps the reader will understand why the Europeans' only way to conquer the Moors was to knock them in the head, rendering him unconscious. See Freemasonry, herein. Islamism, the scientific use of signs, symbols, and tools, was the creed of the ancient Moors. It was applied and lived thousands of years before the advent of Prophet Muhammad, who gave it the perfect name or perfected name, Islam, peace. See seal of the prophets. The Europeans classified the Moorish mind as a galactical weapon. When the Moor was functioning on all points, thinking, he was considered armed and dangerous. In order to disarm them as a people of love, truth, and peace, they had to be disallowed to think, reason, and will, or to understand. Every Moorish child had to become an idiom. A Muslim is one who submits his will to the will of the great God. All ancient Moors were Muslims, and they lived Islam by its components, Islamism. As the study of inner peace, the science of universal harmonies, the first sign and symbols were designed and used by the ancient Moabites, then so-called modern man, in his assuming the title of God describes the Moorish ancient way of life as paganistic and heathenism. However, upon investigation, we can see no civilization existed unless they use some aspect of the modern European Hebrewed version of this paganistic idol worshiping stew. Astronomy is part of Islam. The study of the great gods, planets, stars, and their movements in the system. The ancient ones reverenced the universal order and applied this geometric system to their society. Astronomy was dutiful way of a dutiful way of life for Moors. So much so it was added as a natural part of their holistic government. It was as natural as drinking water. In fact, in his chapter on religion, Noble Ali reveals, and in the laws, universal divine order, he hath ordained as the rule of life, so kindly hath he united thy duty to thy nature, that obedience to his precepts is happiness to thyself. More so to Quran 35:21. Islamism is navigation. From astronomy, the Moors acquired the omnipotent guidelines to chart courses across land, sea, sky, and universe. They were able to map the mental growth of the soul, which men later called enlightenment, by denoting its actions of thinking, reason, willing, and understanding. They developed systems of navigation shortly after the fall. It became obvious to man as he was descending from his God state. He must now pre-measure and mark his travels, unless he would be lost into perceptual finite state of why. Navigation is simply carnal man's way of traveling by senses, and guidance is the divine pathway of the gods. Drew Ali said, man's spirit, travels from the center to the outer bounds of life, but the consciousness of man feels from the infinite to the finite as he descends slower into a human state. This is when foolish man become lost and had to devise north, east, south, and west as directional tools to mark his earthbound travels. In truth, the center of man is in the heart of man. This is where he must inwardly to find his God state. But this is too simple and right. So what does man do to find himself God? Through rituals and forms, they face places on the earth in the northeast, southwest that he himself has previously marked, to offer prayers to a God that he declared is omnipotent and everywhere at once. Silly human. If the great God is truly everywhere, why go anywhere outside of self to offer reverence? Islam is the zodiac, the ancient one's recognition of the divine coordinates between planets, the timetable of manifest destiny and man with other forms of life. These coordinates are the spiritual and astral bonds with designed orbital effects upon other living cycles, past, present, and future. Time elements are divided into thought increments of hours, days, years, and ages. These two are often divided into celestial governments of 12 houses called zodiac. These houses are life cycles. Still, these houses are preceded by the suffix zo, which implies animal kingdoms, e.g. zoo. The word zodiac means the world of little animals, because each of the 12 houses is represented by a symbol reflective of the characteristic of the special house. The ancient Moors were able to reason early in the life of man. All life evolves in cycles of fruition. True astrology is the living of the manifest destiny and the consciousness of man's deific life. Man was created perfect. He came from a perfect source. He therefore is a perfect being, and to perfection he must return. This is the true purpose of the zodiac. Who would know this better than the ancient Canaanites? They later inhabited Mathen. kingdoms in the Upper Nile, whom first designed the zodiac as a celestial calendar to measure the cycles of growth. Minx, the elder wise man from China, once told Yehoshua, all things are thought, all life is thought activity. The multitude of beings are but phrases of the one great thought made manifest. Lo, the great God is thought, and thought is the great God. Architecture is Islam. A conscious Moor is an architect because his creator God has the master plan. Fruit never falls far from the tree. The ancient ones were masters of designing large living structures. They were built from high essence of the earth to house the oracles personifying the oneness of God and man. These living structures are the original computers built geometrically perfect with the principle of higher character of man, using only the power of thought. Some of these structures are the ancient mounds, pyramids, and pagodas, etc. The ancient Muslims built the structures to this day, and these structures still stand in Americas, Africa, and China. They live, made in the image of the character of man to his creator. None of these structures were built with the sound of with a hammer sound, like the 9 months making of a God man. The woman do not use hammers or nails. Yet she can develop a God by following the divine design of the master architect. Islamism is truly the work done when the will of man is in harmony with the will of his creator, being himself the God he is. Islam, Islam, Islam. I'd like to turn this meeting back over to Swift Angel number 4, Islam.
Islamism, grand man. Want to give honors to all the Moors, who most definitely came forth and aided and assisted in laying the foundation through the reading. Praise be to Allah. Allah is leading on, and victory is sure. And grand draw being brought on the manifest. Islamism, Islamism, Islamism. What I would like to come forth with, after already risen, giving praises to the great God Allah and honors to his holy prophet, honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. We want to give honors first and foremost to the Moors who have stayed the course, because these are the Moors that have a clear conception, of everything it is that we are demonstrating right now, and there are those who will learn, what it is that is being demonstrated, by paying attention to what is brought on the manifest. And praise be to Allah again, Islamism, it don't get no plainer than the truth. And so we have embarked on a grand mission. And again, we want to give high honors to our family who have been here from the beginning, and have stayed the course, and they have done the homework, did the research. You've shown that you are truly scientists. You have shown and proven that you are scientists in regards to dealing with doing this research, because the whole key was getting our Moorish kin to think, or is getting our Moorish kin to think and be able to read and direct the course themselves. This separates the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. And what we are dealing with, because our Moorish kin is very familiar now with the root of many different scripts, we again are dealing with these measures from a professor's degree, where we give our Moorish kin the direction, they go and they do the research and they come into a better understanding because they are researching what it is that is being given to them, as opposed to just regurgitating what is being said. That's what make our Moors that's in this class scientists. They are not looking for an intellectual handout, something to be made easy for them, you know, so that they can be lazy with this information. These Moors, man, they done, man, you Moors, y'all done proved a grand degree. And I know this has made many of our Moorish kin strong along the way, made them strong and strengthened them. And when we get ready to go into certain measures and compiling our information and doing it as a whole, it's going to be even more elevated and fun. You know, so we give honors to the Book of Fire, because our chairman pretty much said everything that needed to be said to lay a foundation for this particular class. We already know now what we refer to the language as. You know, we know that Hieratic is really the ray in KEMET. We know that Demotic is the second Inshat. You see, we know that what they call Coptic is really Hikapta. You know, we know what they like to refer to as MATHENO'S is actually a blanket term to a certain degree that refers to the language in general. And we know that True brought on the manifest tells us that MATHENO'S is a metaphysical language. MATHENO'S can be found when you look into the heavens and you pay attention to the signs and the geometrical patterns and forms. That's MATHENO'S. MATHENO'S can be found when you look at your day-to-day living and you look at your life. You know, you look at the way man has evolved in his consciousness and everything it is that we do on the plane of things made manifest. If you were to put it in stone and record a day of your life, you know, that would be MATHENO'S. It won't be an alphabetical language. It will be a living expression. And this is why Yehoshua, according to our teachers, more science, was able to go into those chambers without an alphabet, and he was told to ponder upon the meaning of the symbols. So this basically gives us our own Moorish paradigm here, and it coincides with those who were on the manifest prior to these recent scholars who came later, following or walking in the footsteps, you know, of so-called Champollion transcription, so to speak. We have learned where the remix or the remix came in. We know the time period 333, you know, actually has to do with the subjugation of the Kemetic sciences. And that's the real hidden truth behind what they like to refer to as a 33rd degree. It's the burying of the teachings of the Egyptians, you know, the original Egyptians. You see, we know that it is impossible to come up with a language hundreds and thousands of years after the old kingdom in the pre-dynastic period. We know that it's impossible to say that you understand that, you know, which was ancient, and you come up with your own language that you inscribe on the stone you refer to as a Rosetta Stone. And this is the basis of Western Egyptology, or Eurocentric Egyptology, because it's not just here in the West, it's in other places too. And many people have took this as the end all be all, and that's where they have failed by climbing. This is where they have come into what we call the insufficiency of knowledge. So we have come here to set the record straight. We come here with documentation, because documentation beat all conversation. We've laid many documents out here, and our family have them in their archives. You know, we will make it good, you know, for those who come behind us, the young and the not yet born, because they won't have to go through the struggle that we went through, because it will be right there made manifest before them. So we want to give honors to our Moors who actually understand now that we have, and this is the way that we refer to it for clarity for our people. You know, we have two forms of a structured alphabet that has been passed down through generations, and it actually exposes where an alphabet was tampered with, and we deal with the abjad. You know, the ABGD, peace and love to the Moors who place the Hieratic and the Demotic language, you know, into that abjad form, even though we had it already. And they have begun to go through these alphabets Honors to the Moors who know the difference between what is called cursive hieroglyphics and the hieratic script, because there are some who would tell you that the cursive hieroglyphics are the hieratic script, and nothing can be further from the truth. There are two different measures. Cursive hieroglyphs is nothing more, than the same thing as what they like to call, hieroglyphics, or the pictorial writing, so to speak, which has nothing to do with an alphabetical foundation outside of them being used as markers to cover up the true language. We can't say that enough. We have to make it plain, because when you read other literatures outside what it is that we demonstrate, most people are going to always come up with the question, well, the European demonstrated it this way. They say this and they say that. So it's on one, who is doing the research to know how to separate truth from falsehood. Who has the courage? That's the main thing. Do you have the courage to step out there and tell this European that he's wrong and not feel any type of way by doing it? Do you have the courage to tell your people that have been out here teaching the way the European taught him that he's wrong? My brother, man, your thoughts are wrong. Here, let me show you. Let me show you the true way of being able to go into the language. That's not the alphabet. This is the alphabet. So nothing wrong with that. See, these are the types of things that cause a lot of times cover-ups, and they would rather cover the truth than expose the truth, because they feel like if they admit to this truth, such as like what we're giving you now, there will be a complete upheaval with what it is that they have placed out there. And this is what happened a lot of time with European authors, where the ego get involved. Even our own people, when they have written about a particular thing and stood behind it, and now you come and tell them it's wrong, rather than saying, you know what, yeah, this is not the way it's supposed to be. They will hold on to that demonstration and take it all the way to the grave, because they don't want to be seen as those who have been malinformed, misinformed, and so forth and so on. You see, the miseducation of the Negro, this is one of the main things that was dealt with. And this is what happened when we don't do our own research. We accept whatever somebody else tell us because they have been held as an expert. We accept what they have as the end all be all. This is not so with us in Moorish America. We have the pen in our hand. Prophet Noble Drew Ali told us what to do when we get the pen in our hand. And that's what we're doing. So anyone who has a misunderstanding after all of this that we have given, and we have it in the media for ones to go back and do the research and do their own study, this is someone that just loves to have a pacification being demonstrated in the mind. They are not ready to unfold. They are not ready to change. They are not ready to yet evolve beyond that of that slave mentality of being under somebody else's doctrine of higher training, and quote unquote, they calling it higher learning. So what I want to do without further ado or delay, I also want to give honors to our beloved brother, Mustafa Gedala, who actually in his work spoke a lot on these measures. And now all we are doing in this class is that we are basically bearing witness to everything that he stated in his particular work. For example, here, before I begin to share my screen, the brother said this, because he was dealing with different aspects of the writings. This is what he said, and we also had a PDF too, a couple of PDFs speaking on the scholars that was in existence before Champollion and the Europeans went in there, and most of them were telling you that metal netta in the symbols were always used metaphysically. They wasn't an alphabet. So this was the original state until later. And then they began talking about, oh, they didn't know what they were talking about. This is what this means, and that is what that means. And that's why they still have certain problems with what is called hieroglyphic. This is often admitted amongst the Egyptologists, because they have to make up rules as they go along. You see? Now, certain things such as the gardenias list, you know, we can put to a particular use, you know, and it'll be of benefit to a certain degree when it comes to the categorization of things and identifying certain symbols. That's all good and well. But there's another thing when it comes to dealing again with those pictures and referring to them as an alphabet. See, we got to sift through these things, and when people come back later, they'll be reading our books and they won't have to go back to the European. We have to deal with what we're dealing with now because that's what's on the manifest. We pointing out, you know, what's there. We critical of the text. We are not using this in support of, in contradiction of the message that we demonstrate. You see, we are showing you where they went wrong. So Mustafa Gadala, man, he went into so many different measures. Let me see here. This is what the brother said on page 63. He said the true two primary Egyptian alphabetical scripts, unicals and cursive. And he's quoting Clement of Alexandria in Stromata book 5. I got a document in reference to Clement Alexandria. It says chapter 4 tells us clearly of the real two primary styles of alphabetic writing, as well as the unrelated pictorial Egyptian hieroglyphs. And it says, now those instructed among the Egyptians learn first of all that style of Egyptian letters, which is called epistolographic, which is cursive, composed as a series of letters, right? And second, the hieratic style, it says, with the priestly scribes performed. And finally, last of all, the hieroglyphics. So this is basically telling you, you know, when it comes to the actual order, it came from language and alphabet, and then they had the priestly script, you know, that was written. And then they had another script, which was known as what the European like to call hieroglyph, and we call it metonetta, or the M2 netta, some people like to say. It says the third item being Egyptian hieroglyphics and its nature, meanings, etc. were later discussed. Discussed earlier. Clement never stated that the Egyptian hieratic style was a cursive or degenerated form of hieroglyphics. So he's standing with us on this. Like we showed in our last class, you know, the cursive hieroglyphics are not to be understood as hieratic, even though you will see Europeans refer to it as such. And these are people who don't have a trained eye, or nor do they have a full understanding. They're just going off of what somebody else saying and they regurgitate. So the hieratic is not a degenerated form of the hieroglyphics. The hieroglyphics has a cursive script, you know, that looks like it, more stick-like form. That's the cursive hieroglyphs. So it says hieroglyphics was notably the very last form that he mentioned in that order. And it makes sense because even in that form, you can say that the more perfected pictorial images evolved from the stick images. It's just like when you learn to draw, like we say, we always start with the stick form, you know, of men when we draw them, and then we become more elaborate with our craft. In our craft, we can draw these things as they are. We can look at someone and draw them as a whole being instead of a stick being, so to speak. And so that's the difference between cursive hieroglyphs and what they call hieroglyphs. Same thing, but one is written in a cursive form and one is written in another, but it's still pictorial. And some people could confuse the cursive form with hieratic. So it goes on. And it states, again, the third item being Egyptian hieroglyphics and its nature, meanings, etc. was discussed earlier. Clement never stated the Egyptian hieratic style was a cursive or degenerated form of hieroglyphics. Hieroglyphics was notably the very last form that he mentioned. The last mode of script being hieroglyphics is not of letters and words, but Clement reaffirmed what all writers of antiquity had indicated, that Egyptian hieroglyphics are of three natures: imitative, figurative, and allegorical. And I have the document where they are saying this. You know, some of it is still written in, the Hecopter, so to speak. So it's actually translated Hecopter into English side by side, and they basically telling you that, this is how you read, the teaching. In the Grand Quran, it talks about what you call the figurative and the allegorical, in other words, esoteric and exoteric. In other words, there's an esoteric meaning behind the symbols that they call hieroglyphic. And that's why these things were taught to priesthood, because they not only represent a metaphysical meaning, but they are actually formulas. They're formulas that can be found in those things. And we're going to get to that when we get to the point of discussing that. So that is the true use. And like I said, it really boiled down to the way Yehoshua did it. He pondered upon the meaning. And he went and read the book of creation and became acquainted with his soul. You see, reading Medu from the standpoint of our ancestors was demonstrating nothing more than deciphering the message of the universe or creation. This is how scientists come up with their advancements, by studying creation. And this is why I tell you the metaphysical meaning actually has formulas behind it. You see? So anytime you go out the door and you begin to read the book of creation, again, you are reading Medu. These are thought forms of the great God Allah that has been manifest in creation. That's why we call Medu the language of God. That's why we talk about listening to the silent voice that speaks within. That's not dealing with any alphabet. You see? So it goes on and it states, so Clement of Alexandria specifies two primary alphabetic writing modes. One for domestic / common public use, and the other, or another, that is performed exclusively by the Egyptian priests, and it used exclusively for religious writings. So they're telling you that there was an exclusive language that was only taught to the adepts, the elite of ancient Kemet, whereas one was also a common language. So it went on to say cursive style, a fluid, rounded ligature handwriting. Kufic, for example, Kufic Arabic is a cursive style of writing. You've seen the many calligraphy, that they demonstrate. It's easy to write. Domestic affairs, secular or civil is the use. Then you have the priestly religious style. Here too, square, unslanted, segmented unicles, letters written separately, form a book of easy to read theological matters. Now, when we say priestly religious style, we're dealing with alphabets at this particular point, but there were those measures that deals with what we call pictorial that the priests use. You see as well. So don't get it mixed up and twisted. So it says, in order to make it easier for readers who have been misled by Western academics, false characterizations, we offer here the true delineations with cross-reference to the incorrect Western academia reference Egyptian writing styles. Number one, neat cursive style, erroneously labeled by Western academia as the hieratic style. The herein KEMET is what it's called. It say this was a more careful application used for legal, for professional, scientific, medical, governmental documents. These were carefully executed by specialized and highly qualified scribes according to standards set in each of such applications, which are identified as specific calligraphic forms, to be discussed later in this chapter. As in all Egyptian cursive writing, it was ligature and not ligature according to a specific system. As discussed earlier, as such, it shows that some letters have different forms when used as the first letter in the word, initial, it says, then when used elsewhere in the word, medial, and final. So we see here that he's pointing out also, you know, initial, medial, and final forms. Our Moorish kin have asked about this right here as well. You know, in a recent measure they have. You know, so we can see that some words have these forms, and we're going to discover all of that, you know, in due time. But it says, shown above is a sample of erroneously labeled by Western academia hieratic style, as it appears in the Eberus papyrus, which looks exactly like the erroneously labeled by Western academia Demotic script. You see, so we see the script if we got the book in our hands on page 65. You see, then he goes into number 2, which is public cursive style, erroneously labeled by Western academics as Demotic style. Now, we know some of the letters from the Demotic carry over from the hieratic. We know that some of the letters, even in hieratic, we can even find their origins, you know, stem all the way out into what is called Latin and comes into the English language, is where the only difference is the placement of that particular letter. You know, like the letter M, for example. You know, you will see it in the hieratic and it looks more like a number 3. But if you were to turn it sideways, you know, or put it in a horizontal form, then it would look like a regular M. You see what I'm saying? And the same thing with the A, you can see the traces in that, or the letter E, which is synonymous with the letter H. You take one side off of it and you put a curvature form on one side, then you have the letter E. You see? And it comes all the way into the language as we see it. You see? So these are certain things to also pay attention to, which shows, you know, the present day language most definitely derives through other languages. Like we look at the letter S, we talked about that, SH. The same symbol is used for the SH basically in the Arabic language. They just write it in a different way. In what they like to call Hebrew, a Paleo-Hebrew language, it's the same alphabet, letter, symbol that they use. It's not the same as you see it in English because we don't have an S and an H in combination in the language. But I'm talking about the sh sound. You can find it in, you know, Arabic, Hebrew, and the Coptic language as well. And all of them look the same, but they just have a different style of writing that particular symbol. You know, so we have to be able to identify these things. And that's how we have a mastery over the language. And we know what it is that we're looking at. And so it is the same with the Demotic letter. It's the same symbol. So certain letters retain their originality, even though, you know, there may be different scripts that come on the manifest. In other words, every script indirectly in some way is connected back to these ancient scripts. So anyway, it goes on, it says scripts that are not intended to be of public records, but for business and everyday affairs were not confined to any set standard calligraphic forms and were not executed by official scribes. Such category of scripts, documents, and writings extended to private letters. As in all Egyptian cursive writing, it was ligatured, not ligatured, according to a specific system, as discussed earlier. As such, it shows that some of the letters have different forms when used as the first letter in the word, again, initial, than when used elsewhere in the word, medial, final. Since such scripts were done by non-professional scribes, there were differences, often minor, but still evident in script vocabulary, morphology, or syntax, as one would expect the same with modern handwriting. As was common with this type of uncontrolled writing, category, there was frequent use of abbreviations, especially with words that are used frequently. Number 3, sacred hieratic style, erroneously labeled by Western academia as the Coptic style. They're talking about the Coptic now, you see? So it says, in their sacred writings, the ancient Egyptian priests, as confirmed in Clement's statement above, used unicals. And the unconnected non-cursive form of the alphabetic letters, as stated in the early chapter, each alphabetic letter in the ancient Egyptian language, which was copied into in Arabic, has four forms. The first of which is the unical letter form. We also can see in the hieratic that the letter A is directly the same, when it comes to dealing with Arabic. That one strike line that they have an alphabet that deals with one strike line, just like that letter A in the Arabic. But it says the so-called Coptic and Greek scripts are basically ancient Egyptian form of writing, which was later adopted by the Greeks. And this is what I constantly been saying. And I mean, all you got to do, you catch them in the lie every time they tell you that Coptic was the last form of the Egyptian. And they say Arabic came after that. So if that's the case, and we know Coptic's supposed to evolve after the Demotic script, then where does this Greek come in as being the parent of the Coptic script? See, that's where you catch them in the lie at right there. You see? So it says more detailed information about this subject in later chapters. An important element in all calligraphy is the connection between the form and function. Scripts, broadly speaking, are either easy to read. Bookhands were used foremost for the copying of literature and aim for clarity, regularity, and to some extent, impersonality. Usually the work of professional scribes' deliberate stylization, it says, can give these hands an element of imposing beauty. That's like if you look at Arabic and look at some of the calligraphy, some of that don't look exactly like the Arabic you know Arabic to be. And it's hard to read calligraphy if you don't know in detail, the changes and the variations in the styles that are produced. So in most cases, when one thinks that something is different, it's just a different style of writing the alphabet. You see? So it says easy to write. Documentary styles cover a much wider range of purpose, and they include chancery hands as well as the workday writings of officials and private persons. For this type of script, the ability to write quickly is of great importance, and to achieve this, the pen should be lifted as rarely as possible from the writing material. Apart from the form and function, calligraphy is also closely connected with the materials and instruments used for writing, which will be discussed in the next chapter of this book. The purpose of scripts determines the style of writing: formal, cursive, semi-formal, semi-cursive. The terms cursive and formal refer neither to the material used for writing nor to the content of these inscriptions. Rather, they refer fundamentally to script types, that is, to the manner in which the letters are written and to the resulting forms. A formal script tends to be square or segment, and apparently required a more frequent lifting of the writing instrument from the written material, or writing material. Egyptian scribes had in many ways, still do, different calligraphic forms for corresponding uses, legal documents, governmental offices, petitions, business transactions, medical, mathematical, astronomical forms, etc. The very same forms are still employed nowadays in Egypt under names such as Kufic, Nakash, some people say, Thuluk, Talik, Nastalik, Rika, Dawani, etc. Several of these forms in particular field function are hard to read for untrained eyes. The line of Egyptian cursive writing suggests an urgent progression of the characters from right to left. The nice balance between the vertical shafts above and the open curves below the middle register induces a sense of harmony. For writing, the Egyptian calligrapher, pardon self, employed a reed pen, kalam, with the working point cut on an angle. This feature produces a thick downstroke and a thin upstroke with an infinity of gradation in between. The line traced by a skilled calligrapher is a true marvel of fluidity and sensitive inflection, communicating the very action of the master's hand. So this is actually telling you how the style of the writing and everything comes into play, and how many different people have different styles of writing. We don't write the same. That's how people can tell, by signature, who a writer is. They use that even in law enforcement. When they're trying to do investigation, if they got to pull up certain works dealing with writings. So let me go now to some things, and I'm gonna just briefly go into this area. I'm gonna share my screen real quick. Let me do this here. Let me take that out of the way there. We got a few documents we're gonna bring on the manifest. So here we have it here, and we already have this here. We see, the comparison that was made here, with the hieratic, you see, in the demotic. We all have this particular measure. We also have the chart that I sent out to the Moors recently, that actually shows the abjad order and everything else. So it's going to become a point to where we do some practicing, on looking at, the hieratic and bringing this, into relation with some of the hieratic and demotic relations, so to speak. Like we actually have the dictionary that give the breakdowns. So we replace the hieratic letters in particular paper, because they break down certain sentences piece by piece. And we will place it in the hieratic style of writing. And these things also impress upon the memory, the actual alphabets. The more you begin to try to write and transliterate, the more familiar you become with the letters, basically. That's the way that you do it. That's how you immerse yourself in the language. It takes work, so that's the main thing I have this for. And you all already have this in your archive, so I don't really have to go into this much because we done touched on it already. But there's also a script where you will see that they tried to put pictorial letters there. And we're going to transcribe these pictorial expressions back into the hieratic language, and basically put the hieratic out there. And that will also make us become more fluid in our expression, of the writing and so forth and so on. So these, again, hieratic letters are in direct comparison with the demotic, and this is the same transliteration. Remember I was saying this, if you know the Arabic S here, the way they demonstrated it, and you see the way they came here, you see this is SH by this little downward arrow on there. That's where the sh come from. So there it is right there. That's the hieratic, form of that. I see they also have another S in here, but we'll get into that later. So basically these symbols, along with these symbols here, you can transliterate back and forth between them, but they both represent the letter K. And that's all it is. Now that we're familiar with both of the scripts, we can see that there's an interchangeable measure. And so being that we have more of definition in the demotic, because it was more recent and they have the definition beside it, we can impose the definitions of the demotic words upon hieratic words when we put them together. And that's how we will build up, our dictionary, so forth and so on. So I just wanted to point that out to our family. We talked about this before. Now, this is what I wanted to point out here, because you often hear me talking about the burial of the symbols and so forth and so on. And there are many different documents out there that speak a lot on, the hieratic and so forth and so on. And this is dealing with an introduction into the hieratic. Now, listen, this is coming from their particular standpoint. This is what they state. They said hieratic is the cursive form of the Egyptian hieroglyphic script. Our brother Mustafa Gadala just told you that was not so. We said the same thing. I just pointed it out too. You see what I'm saying? Because we know what the cursive form of the Egyptian script looked like. You see? And just to go back to and make it plain, we're going to go and show you again, even though our Moorish kin, some of them already know it, we're going to use the paperwork. We're going to use the actual document so that our kin would not have no misunderstanding of this. We're going to do it again. We got to use the hammer of repetition because some of our people, may still not have the insight as to what we are referring to. Okay, let's see it here. And again, this is showing you the distinction between the scripts. Again, this is hieratic. You can obviously see the difference between this. This is the cursive here.
I don't think we can see
It
that.
didn't change it?
No, sir.
Okay, what I do then, let me go out because I know it has a tendency of doing that. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna open it up. Let me stop sharing this. I'm glad you be on it too, brother. Marvin Edwards Bay, Grand Draw, because it ain't good to be up here talking and thinking you're sharing something and you ain't sharing it. There you go. You see it now?
Gratitude.
Okay, gratitude. So again, all the Moors had this in their archive. This is what we call the hieratic script, but it is really called herein KEMET. You see, this is what they call cursive hieroglyphs. Again, this is basically cursive hieroglyphs next to hieroglyphs, which is basically the same thing. This is a more elaborate form. This is the stick form. Now that we have that, all you got to do is look at these two here, and you can see that they are totally different from each other. One is just pictures in the stick form, and this is the actual alphabet. Now, there are certain measures in between these things that some people will refer to as determinatives because the European told them to refer to these things as that. We'll get into all of that later, because it's necessary to have certain knowledge of the markers that they are calling determinatives in order to put a word together, and know how certain words are separate from other words. So we get that particular measure there. We can see that. And most of this came from, remember, not the European themselves, but this was the people that was transliterating the works that were actually natives of the land. Native Egyptians translated a lot of the information that E. Wallace Budge came forth with. You see, and later, they did their own thing and claimed it as their own. And they say that in their preface. So it was the natives that began to give them the information European used, what they was able to work with. And then they tried to be systematic about it. And this is how they came up with their expression of our ancestors' language. So now that we have that particular measure out the way, we'll go back to where we were, which is here. So in this document, we don't care about the fact of what the Europeans said in this document per se. We just reading it to you so that we can correct it. Hieratic is the cursive form of all Egyptian hieroglyphic script. That's not correct according to what we know. However, unlike hieroglyphic, which was inscribed primarily on stone monuments and intended to last for eternity, hieratic was written most often with a brush and ink on papyri and ostraca. You see, there they go again. That's their way trying to rationalize their own meaning. They talk about the symbols were the primary form, and then they saying the letters came later. Islam?
You just reading, you're not really showing us a document, right?
Well, it should have shown you this document because I shared the whole of the screen. It
Well,
still didn't change then?
no, sir.
Well, what I'm gonna do to make sure that it happened, because I'm actually sharing my whole screen. And when you share your whole screen, normally you would be able to share everything. So what I'm gonna do just to make sure, I guess I got to manually go one by one because it's not letting me share it all the way across the board for some reason. Either that or it's kicking me off of the share. That's what it seems like is happening, family. Like when I'm switching over, it's kicking, it's stopping share for some reason.
If you
But
see the
nevertheless,
document,
you see this?
yes, sir.
Okay, so yeah, basically, and I'll make sure to check it as I move forward, you know, because when I'm doing it, I'm thinking I can share move. For example, I just changed the document. Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
And that's a different document though, right?
Right. That's it. Got saying transliteration.
Okay. So I want to make sure. What about this one right here?
That's German or something.
Okay, yeah. So that's where I was trying to get it, where I can move between all of them. So okay, Islam. So it says again, however, unlike hieroglyphic, which was inscribed primarily on stone monuments and intended to last for eternity, it says hieratic was written most often with a brush on ink and papyri and ostraca. It says as the preferred script for day-to-day record keeping in private and official correspondence, magical and medical documents and literature. In addition, whereas hieroglyphic texts might be written either form, either from right to left. It says a left to left to right or right to left. It says hieratic was written exclusively right to left. You see? So here they are again trying to mix the two. But it says the earliest true hieratic documents discovered thus far to date to the 4th dynasty from the ring of Khufu, hieratic continued to be employed alongside the hieroglyphic script for the remainder of pharaonic history. That's why you hear them say that some scholars say, well, hieratic is older, you know, than the pictorial script. And then some will say, well, you know, the pictorial script is older than, and some of them say, well, they both came at the same time. That's just to rationalize them trying to keep saying that the hieroglyphics is an alphabet. That's all that is. Trying to slide it up in there. It says around the translation, and that's because they want to say they was the one that deciphered it, basically. If you're asking your question, why would they do it? Because they was in competition with each other. So they came up with a system to make it look like they transliterated something. It says around the transition from dynasty 25 to 26, so-called abnormal hieratic developed into the Demotic script. Attested the first from the ring of Semek the first, 650 BCE, and furthermore, 7 Demotic signs derived from hieratic. It says antecedents. It says including individual signs, the late Egyptian group writing syllabic. It says in orthographies, it says were adapted eventually into the 7 Coptic signs used for 6 native Egyptian sounds, which lack direct counterparts, it says in the Greek alphabet, plus the bigraph indicating T in table 1. So they went to express certain measures here, and this is what I'm showing you on what they did. Table 1, the hieroglyphic, hieratic, Demotic, Coptic correspondences. So what they did is they took this particular symbol. See, some of these symbols didn't even exist during the Old Kingdom now. You know what I mean? That's a whole nother beast trying to cipher that out, because they had like about 700 of them in the beginning that were actually on monuments long before Ptolemy come on the manifest. But then some symbols were invented during the time of Ptolemy. And that's how he was able to try to superimpose himself, you know, through the Rosetta Stone and act like he was in the Kemet. And you got to remember, Ptolemy and them had monuments built. So of course he would be there, but that wouldn't have nothing to do with the old kingdom of Kemet. The old kingdom, you know, was so far removed from 330 BC as the sun is from the moon. So nevertheless, they took this particular picture here and they began to try to rationalize this at this level. Now this in most cases would have been seen, you know, in the light of a cursive hieroglyph, you see, which actually, you know, some people would have called this cursive hieroglyph even a determinative, according to the way the European do it on the Gardenia's law. So they took this particular symbol and applied it to this particular measure, you know, in this particular style, you know, which is more of what they would consider, you know, hieratic. Because sometimes what they are calling hieratic, you know, and they calling it hieroglyphic, they are mixing the two because of the rules that they created. You see what I'm saying? So now when you come over here, you find also the demotic, this symbol here in similarity, they went and tried to find everything that they could compare and say, this is what it looks like. This is what it is. You see, and see the letter, like I told you, that letter, sh, you can see it in Coptic, it's the same, and Demotic is the same, hieratic is the same. They calling this hieroglyphic, but that's really another form of writing hieratic. That's another style of writing the letter. You see, and this here is what they basically is referred to in most cases as a determinative, which will be in between words, even though they're trying to mix it with these symbols because of the 3 slashes that are here. You see, in most cases, they'll say, well, the 3 slashes represent a plurality in a particular level and all this type of stuff, dealing with different people. So here also, and now notice they put the letter S here. They're trying to say this is the letter for hieroglyphic S, this picture here. You see, so that's how they bury the actual hieratic alphabet under the symbol. Because if you're looking for this symbol to be trying to transliterate certain things and it exists in papyri, you're not tapping into the language. So the same thing here, you know, because we have more detail. We already spoke on it, now we're showing you. So they took this symbol of the serpent, they say this is the letter F, but it was the letter F in hieratic before they made it a hieroglyphic. See what I'm saying? So when you go into Demotic, they put that in comparison beside it. Okay, yeah, this is letter F in Demotic as well. It's retaining this originality. You can also see a relation, if you would, too, on how the Latin F would evolve out of this here if you were to place another line up there on top of it and turn it the other way. But that's a whole nother mess. This is the Coptic expression, or Hecopter. Same thing here. And right here, here's the pictorial. This is the actual picture again here. You see, and then they tried to compare it to this letter here, which is really, both of these are really hieratic here. But they compared this symbol to this. No, these are 2 different symbols. We know in our alphabet, a looks like a B looks like a B, a C looks like a C. In Arabic, a looks like a. I mean, all the languages you go through, their alphabet look the same. So by virtue of looking at these 2, we know these are not the same symbols. You see, this is just a cursive form of this pictorial form. This is the hieratic alphabet that they are erroneously putting under the hieroglyphic area again. You see? So this hieratic, and they shows the Demotic, and the Demotic looks somewhat similar. It just curves all the way around. So we can see the derivation here. We can see the relation between the Demotic and the hieratic, but you cannot see a relationship between this particular measure here and that measure. There is no relation to it. You see, even though they're trying to reach. Here's another measure here. This is an expression of what they would call in pictorial form H. But look, there's no equivalent here and here. But here you have the H in the hieratic, and you can see here it's slightly different. It's a little different here when you look at these 2 in the Demotic and the hieratic, you know, but nevertheless, and the Coptic, you can see a difference there. You know, these are basically distinctive, though these are the expression of the letters in these languages. So again, you have the pictorial measure here. So they tried to compare this to this. This would be their cursive form of the pictorial level. Then they tried to come up with this. This symbol with the line going here is different from this symbol with a box at the bottom. It actually looks more like a sludge hammer type of demonstration, actually. You know, sitting on its metal with the wood part sitting up. But anyway, this is totally different from this symbol, even though they tried to put it in the links. So they were looking at symbols and trying to compare. So here's one form, which is not a hieroglyphic expression, even though they would like to call it that. You know, is really a hieratic form, a different script of it. And sometimes they would try to mix these hieratic symbols with the pictorial. The European did that in a later time under the Ptolemaic period. A lot of those documents that you find, you won't find hieroglyphic writings in the Great Pyramid. You won't find them in now one of them pyramids. You find the hieroglyphic writings in the Bent Pyramid. The pyramid, what they call the pyramid text of Unas, that's not in the Great Pyramid of Giza. Go do the research. So again, this is the hieratic, this is the demotic, this is the hecopter. You know, again, what do we call hieratic? We call it Ray in KEMET, second inchet, hecopter. You see? We using hieratic and demotic because our people are more familiar with it, but we also correcting it, letting it be known what it really is. So here, they came up with the K, as they would call it, you know, maybe a bowl or a cistern, a water cistern, whatever you want to call it. You know, you can go in the Gardenia's list and find out what they call all of these things. Those things that are obvious, we can go with it. But those things that are not so obvious, we could either rename, you know, accept it as it is, and then we can build, you know, on the formulas from there. But that's a whole nother measure we'll tackle later. So they are trying to say that this is their, you know, cursive expression. And they would even tell you this is the cursive expression. But I would just say that looking at it, these would be different forms of writing, you know, in the actual script of the hieratic. Anytime you see, you know, measures like this here, it's always dealing with different form. That's that medial form, that beginning form and end form that our brother was speaking of. You know, here's the hecopter. I mean, not the hecopter, but the second inchet, what they call demotic, in comparison that we can see it retain its likeness. We can see a relation between all of those. So those just look like different styles of writing the same letter. But this is a whole nother demonstration here. These expressions have been hidden under these symbols. So we can also see in the hecopter that they actually did try to deal with the same expression. It's just in a different form. It's a little shorter and a little more curved and circled off, so to speak. You see, this is KEMET. The KH and the CH degree here. So then we have here, you know, what they are calling jet. They're trying to put that there. And then you see they are comparing this to this. This don't look nothing like that, Morris King. They really reach with that one. That's a good reach, but they really reach. And what they're trying to tell you is this is, you know, the arm. You know, and then they're trying to put this here and then they draw this up here. And it just don't work when you go to reaching it like that. We can see here, this has a distinctive look from this, but these are really different forms of writing the same alphabet, if you ask me, you know, in the hieratic, you know, as we vet what it is we're looking at. So it's very important. It ain't even necessary to go to the commentary and all that right there, you know, in this particular measure right now. We're just trying to show you what has been done. Let's go back here. They would call this, you know, the hieroglyphic pictorial script. Now this would be a cursive form. We showed that to you when we showed you the cursive writings earlier. You know, this would be another form of what they would call a cursive form, right? But this is really expressed also in hieratic. So this is when they mix in the two again. They're confusing it because this is really a different symbol than this. Even though they try to compare these two right here, and we can see, okay, this is looking very similar. You know, this is a stick version of this actual symbol here. This is a totally different demonstration here. Then you have the hieratic expressed right here, in line with, you know, even the demotic expression. You can see it being drawn, but a little bit more pulled together here. But you can see the similarities in this. You can also see that letter A that I told you that's synonymous with Arabic. We also see this little curvature here that they actually reserve in the demotic that's on the side of this, you know, this vulture here. You see? So then they go into, you know, dealing with abbreviations, and they showing you the same thing, different styles of the writing. We see it here again, and that's again the same letter. Then they come up with their alphabet for the letter J, and they say this represents the reed. So they try to compare this to this particular form, you see, which they will put in their realm of Egyptian cursive, but I see it being very relative and relative to the hieratic, so to speak. I can see a different style in writing the same edge. I can see it here too, but they brought the strike all the way through the letter as opposed to here. You see? And it goes all the way to the end in the same way. We can see all of these different styles, but it's not the symbol. You see, then we can see how they came up with this, because we see the first one they made a reed. So if this looks similar to this, then they put two reeds there as the letter Y. Know the letter Y is interchangeable with the letter J, and the reason you see them here not in abjad order is because they're in sound shifting order. For those who don't know what sound shifting order is, it has to do with letters that are interchangeable, as we covered in our last class. So you can see different styles here. You see the same letter here, but different writing styles, you know, of that demonstration. And you can find this through and through. There's another measure where they just put two look like commas, but this is a different expression of these measures. Then they came up with this one. Oh, they thought they can really get away with this one right here. Yeah, this right here is definitely, in their eyes, you know, this is exactly the arm degree that they demonstrate. You see, this is ayn in the Arabic language, by the way, ayn, you know. So when you come over here in the hieratic, comparing it to their cursive hieroglyphic, we see this is just another portion, you know, of the style of one writing the hieratic. Though we have been taught to confuse it with this arm right here, that's the European interpretation. I don't accept it. Now, it may look good to some other people who want to accept that, but we can't do that because there's too many symbols out there that the European could take and say this symbol look like that, that look like that. Because remember, after 700, they end up become like 7,000 different symbols. So when they came on the manifest, it was easy to go through all them symbols they came up with and try to make some of them fit. Because you can only draw so many symbols without really overlapping into other symbols eventually. There's only a set amount of symbols that exist in art form, you know, on walls, inscribed and everything. Ain't nothing new under the sun. So it's not strange they eventually run into the same expression of a symbol somewhere else. So again, these are just different to our observation. It's just different expressions of the same measure. Here you see another N that's brought off of here, you know, on this particular expression here. And so you get the key point that we're making, family. They did this with the whole of the alphabet, and this is their chosen order that they put it in. The Egyptians, the Kemites, did not put this in this order. And they tell you why they did it and how they did it. Now, you know good and well, this symbol and this symbol don't look nothing alike. So it's certain things here where you can see the obvious reach. You see, these things were accepted as such. And in fact, when they were competing with each other, some of these Europeans didn't even agree upon the M being the symbol that the M is, or the F being the symbol, you know, so they had their own hangups. But this is what I was telling you here about the M. You know, when it looks like the number 3, but if you were to turn it, you know, horizontal, you would see that this is actually the letter M itself that comes into the English. So these are different expressions and we need to be notable. This is what we had the Moors do with the abjad. When they put it in abjad order, they place certain signs on the side so that they can better identify these as special mentions. We see how they're trying to get away with the letter N over here. You know, but this letter N that they trying to make a symbol or a pictorial expression is not the same. You can try to reach and get away with it, but these are actually alphabet here and different styles of writing the alphabet. That's all it is. Same thing here. They try to call this the open of the mouth and this deal with the letter R to them. And they come over here and then put this measure here. So the real letter R is this actual symbol here, not this picture. You see, the real letter N is the actual alphabet over here, not this picture. The real letter M, you know, has to do again with the alphabet and not the picture. That's what we have to impress in our consciousness. Now, these are but different styles of writing the letter R, which is dealing with the alphabet. We see how they tried to reach, but really you can see that's really totally different from all these particular measures here, family. Don't let them pull the wool over you. We also had the question raised on this particular expression here, this box form of the letter H, you know, and was it relative to the actual cursive hieroglyphics, or I dealt with hieratic and we found that it actually extended over here because it's really just another way of writing, you know, the hieratic. And you see the different forms of it because it goes all the way over here. You see, these are different styles of writing the same measure, and they just use that in a pictorial form of expression the same degree. And so then they tried to deal with the letter H here and, you know, compare all these different forms of the writings. And so I think our Moors can pretty much get it. And we'll get this out to the Moors as well so they can really go into it and sift through it and study it. And the same thing occurs when they came up here. And this is where you can really see the remix at here. This would be called a determinant. And they got all the Unicodes here where you can go and look this stuff up, you know, and compare. Now, we see how they brought up this, and this really don't look like this, but we see what they were trying to do. This to them would be the stick version of this. But this, we definitely can see is not a part of the alphabets of the hieratic as far as the sequence go when you go through them. You know, so they call these determinatives, what they couldn't recognize or what they couldn't see, so to speak.
Islam?
Islam, brother.
I don't mean to interrupt your momentum. You know, because I was looking at this gardener's list the other night, and you know, they got like all these different signs and symbols just about of everything. And in one area I was looking at, it was showing how, you know, just like that Unicode and everything, they were trying to introduce it to like say computer language. You know what I mean? So I mean that's another area where they're, I say, going to.
Yeah, that, I mean, they have in certain aspects, they already got computer things where you can go in there and they got Gardenia. That's what the Unicode is for. That's why I was telling our family before, the Unicode is not a language or a script. The Unicode is just a marker that they put in as a code. So when they type A133 in, this symbol pop up. And so they just programming all that. But the key of what I'm emphasizing is the fact that they tried to, you know, call these demonstration determinatives, but that's not the language that the Kemites use. You see, even though we see what they're trying to say and they're systematic putting things together, but this is not a hieratic expression of an alphabet in the sense that it's a part of the list that we have. This more looks like when you look at these symbols here that they are calling determinatives, they are nothing more than, we can call them spacers, so to speak, indicators. You see what I'm saying? Same thing. In fact, you know, I ain't even with being so critical of the term determinative. We just letting you know that's not what our ancestors called. You see, that's, we letting you know who created that. Gardenia created that order. You see what I'm saying? It didn't exist in the ancient time. He called it that. So the same thing here, when you go through these different letters, you can see the difference. When you get all the way over here, none of this look nothing like that right there. I'm pretty sure we can obviously see that. They don't even take a train out of Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles to see that this is not this over here. This is definitely not this over here. And all this, come on, man. You know, they have abbreviation. They go into this just different styles of writing the same letters. So we need to have the knowledge. These will give us an understanding when we go to look for certain letters, you know, and they are not in the list. There's certain things we can do, and we will find it in these charts here that, like I said, I give to the Moorish kin dealing with the introduction into the Hieratic. And so they did the same thing with every so-called determinative here, tried to compare it here, you know, and go all the way over into this other language here and then say, this is what it is. You know, same thing here. You know, that's what they did. You know, trying to find a likeness in these things. So that's what we always trying to point out to our Moorish kin to get them to see. You know, we were talking earlier about the 3 slashes on here. You can see they actually have them here isolated in many different expressions or forms. They was trying to put it together with the letter S, you know, earlier. This is actually one of the symbols that was adopted here into what is called Paleo-Hebrew or Proto-Sinaitic, Proto-Canaanite. You know, that's a whole nother measure. So then they go into talking about bilateral signs and trilateral signs, and they got lists in here where they put those things together. You know, that ain't too much of something to go back and forth and argument over, you know, but the main thing, we just want to isolate these pictures and let you know these pictures are not these alphabets. You see, that's our only issue that we pushing here, you know, when it comes to these special measures. So, I mean, you can see, you know, all the different expressions here, and it's the same thing. You know, they place these things beside here, and this is how they came up with what they came up with. And this is what people think they are reading when they translate or transliterate MATHENO'S. But you never see them reading the script, the actual script. You see, you show this to them, they can't read it. You see, because they've been taught to try to look at a pictorial expression, but they have yet to go into the actual papyri. How do we know this to be the truth? Because we have the original papyri. So just look at all this here, you know, all the way down here. And like we say, we're going to get this out to the Moors. You know, there are certain things, you know, that deal with a relevancy, but certain things really, you know, are self-explanatory, you know. So they go through this whole document, you know, in the comparisons, and they use a lot of gardenia sign. This is not all of them, because he got one with way more than this right here, Moorish kin. In fact, I think I got it up here, if I ain't mistaken. I don't have it up here in this. I thought I had it open earlier, but I do have a papyri with that up here. You know, not papyri, but I do have a PDF with gardenia signs in it, and you probably seen it. They got a whole lot in it. So this is actually, this is in German. This was the competitors here, you know, of Gardenia and all these other individuals, so to speak. So you see, this is basically the same thing I was just showing you, but another person's expression of this. You know, they were working together in certain aspects, and they were working against each other in others. This is what I'm coming down here to. This is what I was saying. This is actual papyri here. You see? And we showed the family this. This, you don't see people that's claiming to be Egyptologists trying to transliterate. They're always trying to transliterate the symbols. And so we're going to use a lot of this papyri right here just to exercise our transliteration. Some of our Moors have already begun to look at certain documents. You know, we actually have the names of some of these texts and everything. They did the same thing here that they did in other, and they actually have, you know, actually this would be man right here in Gardenia's list, what they call him manner. Right here, that's man. you know, and then they went on down and they go to another form. In the list, you deal with the animals, you know, it goes into different expressions of it. So that's basically the same thing as giving you Unicodes that connect all these things. And that's how people try to use these things to act as if, see, this is like the corporeal, you know, incorporeal measures that they demonstrate. We'll get into a lot of that later, but this is basically what they were doing. And that's how they came up with the glyphs. They went through and compared everything that they could try to put together. And then they say, all right, this is the language. You see? Okay, let me go to this other PDF here. And we'll get all this to our Moorish kin because it's going to be necessary in the work that ones have to do when they come forth. That's Mola's work. Now, here's an actual book with the original papyri here outside, you know, of just being copied. And this is actually dealing with books that were translated, you know, from the Hieratic. And then you can see where they came up with the hieroglyphics, or they transcribed the Hieratic and the hieroglyphics here. As we get more familiar, being trained by the eye. Let me turn this, let me move this out of the way first. Let me turn this over a little bit. Oh, I messed up. I got to go back. Let me see here. There we go, right there. So there you go. You see it here. This is what they call the Chester Beatty papyrus. And this is the whole translation is here, but this is what it looked like originally. This is the literary text that they come up with. Notice they tried to put the hieroglyphics or the pictorial writing before the actual alphabet in the hieratic. You know, so this is the original source, not them hieroglyphics up there. And we can show you this time and time again. See what I'm saying? Literary text, hieroglyphic text. Literary text, hieroglyphic text. Original. You see? Literary text, hieroglyphic text. And if you look closely in there, you can see some of those symbols that actually jump out at you as what they would like to call determinatives. We can call indicators. Like here's one here. Here's one here. You can see they're bold and you can tell they are the ones that separate, you know, the alphabet. Here's one here. You know, so our eyes have to be trained in that particular science as well to be able to know where the separation and the markers come into play. And that's going to be manifest by us becoming familiar with, you know, those expressions that they like to quote unquote call determinatives, you know, and isolate those drawings because they don't exist in the alphabet, the 20, you know, some odd alphabet, so to speak. Okay, so you can see them through here, throughout this document as well. You see how many different pieces of papyri, family, you know, alongside of this so-called literary text that they done translated. And you see this is real clear. So some of this stuff we'll be trying to, again, transliterate on our own. Look at it. It's just like, goodness gracious. You know, so here's your translation up top here. They have a lot of that in there, but I'm just showing you what I mean when I say they hid the hieratic up under the symbols, you know? And so here's another drawing here, you know, that deals with a little bit more hieratic as well. This is another measure. And you can find some definitions and words and transliterations in this particular demonstration. So it'll be useful when we start building up our dictionary. And this book is one that is actually known as Petrus works. You know, this is the Petri, because Petri was one that was doing his translations as well. So now we seen this in our last chapter. We ain't gonna say actually last lesson part itself. We seen this there. These are actually lessons in the hieratic on the papyrus. So what they would do is, and this is the papyrus of D'Orbigny. And these papyri were named after Europeans. So we know the ancient Kemites didn't call it that because this was the one who dealt with a transliteration. It's just like if we transliterated something and we call it the Muhammad Bay Papyri, the Torrey Simpson Bay Papyri, you know what I mean? That's all the European did, put their name on it. So this is the whole extraction of the papyri here. This is pieces of it now. So they dissect each one of these. That's the whole I showed you. So they take line for line and basically break this demonstration down into these words. You see, and by the time they get done breaking portions of it down, it becomes a whole sentence. You see, and so what we would do, especially when it comes to our homework, seeing how they use the pictures here, go beyond cursive hieroglyphs and take it back into the hieratic. What letter would be equivalent? What symbol is equivalent? Or is it a letter or a symbol when we deal with bilaterals and trilaterals and so forth and so on? So we'll get into that, in a little bit. This is basically the same type of measure. I got a whole bunch of these lessons, where they had a whole papyri and then they just break it down line for line, piece for piece, until they formulate after going through all these particular letters. When you get all the way down here to the end, see how that whole sentence is put together? So once you see the sentence is put together, now you go to another portion, the second line, that's what these lessons consist of, basically a breakdown of every one of these particular measures. So this is also that which will allow one to become, insightful by looking at these things, transcribing, taking it out of these symbols and taking it back to the alphabet. And we would do our people a great service by doing that. So at this point, that's really all I have at this point, pouring certain measures out. But what we're gonna do right now, we're gonna open up the floor for questions and comments. We're gonna really get into the working knowledge of this more. I'm pretty sure it became clear to our Moorish kin using the hammer of repetition while also inserting new information, so that when we dive into this demonstration, we know what we're looking at. So at this time, let me see here. Let me stop sharing my screen and let me see which of our officials are on here. We don't see the sheet, don't see the chairman, don't see the Grand National Secretary of the State. But we know that Allah is leading on and victory is sure. So at this time, who we will call on, we're going to call on our goddess and queen, Assistant Grand National Secretary of Moorish America, Sister Alceta Moon L. Islam. Are you there, sister? Well, Islam, we know the sister's about the business of our Father God Allah. Praise be to Allah. Well, all right, let us call forth then our Assistant Grand National Chairman, Dr. Torrey Simpson Bay. Islam, you there, Grand Man?
Islam, yes, sir. And mopping this floor at the same time, keeping the council clean. Islam, but once again, let us rise and give all praises to our Father God Allah and honors to our Holy Prophet, Noble Drew Ali, honors to everything that is Moorish, Grand National Flag, emblem and seal, Divine Constitution, and bylaws of Moorish America. Islam, Islam. One thing about this class that I can say is that, knowledge, having knowledge and having insight and also being able to think again, because our beloved Prophet, Noble Drew Ali, brought us everything that it takes to save us as a nation. And now we're taking to save ourselves. And of course, now the pen is in our hand with one free national name, our divine creed of nationality, and then the science of the Moors. And what we're dealing with today, dealing with the alphabetic script, the Hieratic, Demotic, and all the scripts that's brought forth by our National Assistant Grand Sheikh of Moorish America, Dr. Shedu Amenti Mohajid Sabshuel. So this knowledge that has been brought forth with the different scripts definitely is part of the upliftment, a part and parcel of the upliftment of fallen humanity. And once again, honors to you, Grand Man, for all that you do and all that you have done with bringing forth education, actually helping to bring out more of the God and goddesses that we are, and also who our forefathers and foremothers were. And so with this education, it definitely brings out, it taps into the DNA of who we are as gods. Out of one come many. So with that being said, long live Moorish America, another milestone in the journey of the uplifting of fallen humanity. Honors to you, honors to all those who helped open up the way, aid and assisted me. I think it was Dr. Bati Bey and Dr. Garrett Myers Bey. Gratitude for your help, aid and assisting, and honors to you once again. That's what Sister Grand Sheik, all that you do, all that you will do. Long live Moorish America. Islam.
Islam. And before you go, Grand Man, let me ask you a question, Sister Chairman. In regards to dealing with the language and what we just went over, what is it that you have picked up in relation to dealing with the distinction between what they like to call, quote unquote, hieroglyphics and the Hieratic? Can you give us a drawing on that briefly?
Islam. Yes, sir. And once again, when we talk about the hieroglyphs, this does not originate the letter. This is what we spoke about when Yehoshua, he went into ponder on the glyphs. He went into ponder because this, what you were speaking about is what you say, the metanetter, or the voice. And when you talk about the actual, you say Hieratic, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And the Hieratic, from my understanding, that this is also used by the priests or the scribes. This language did not, I won't say come out to Coptic. This language was there. And so with the Hieratic, we're able to learn the alphabetic script when it comes to Hieratic, and then the difference. Know that not only that, but the hieroglyphs had nothing to do with that. The hieroglyphs is only just for us to ponder. I want to say the metanetter. And then when I say the Hieratic comes in with the priestly scripts, or one would say a book, that's brought forth for the people. And shoot, Grand Man, that's why I just, when it comes to our prophet, we talk about in this new era of time. And then also, now Sister Grand Sheik, even looking at the first 4 ayahs of chapter 22 of this week, we have to, and even looking at the questions, like I said, matter of fact, gratitude for the recall, because as you had us read, you had us start reading at 402. And when I was reading 402, I want to also be honest for this. It goes right into, all truth we have, but it goes right into our question today coming from Sunday school. So the Hieratic, like I said, when closing, Hieratic is pretty much that ancient script when it comes to holy books. That's my understanding. Islam.
And that's a grand understanding, Grand Man. That's exactly what we were looking for. The distinction and knowing the difference. Now, you ain't gonna hear that from an Egyptologist. They're gonna tell you that the hieroglyphics and the pictures is a script. They're gonna get up there and try to give an elaborate example on how they translate metanetter. You can see the difference between the two scripts, but we're gonna let our Moorish kin, who we showed the scripts, everybody that's seen, we're gonna say that question for our next Moor that will come forth, and this will actually be the Moors themselves, because you were the official that come forth. So we're gonna open up the floor to our Moorish kin who would like to come forth and give their message in relation to what we brought forth. Islam? Islam, Brother Bati Bey.
Islam. What throws me is that when they did their what they call their transliteration, we don't even know if that's, well, we know for a fact that's not truly what the words mean. That's their gross interpretation and breakdown of something that they couldn't even understand to begin with. So how do you even take what they're saying to be as fact, especially when we're going in books like the book of what they call the coming forth, they call it the book of the dead, but coming forth by day. We don't know if that's a necessarily true translation of any other books that they have. Even if we're looking at the 1599 Coptic Bible, all their transliteration is just from their failure to comprehend what the ancestors was doing. And then when you're talking about the formula, the what they call the hieroglyphs or the pictorial text, the pictorial text is in true is a formula, then it's not for a formula for them to transliterate a text, but more for to transliterate the divine mind into the spirit realm, as opposed to what they're doing. So it just shows that these people just be faking to make it, and don't really know what they're doing. And I give honors for this class and all the information that's put forth.
Islam, that's exactly, brother. You couldn't have put it in a better way of saying it. And see, the thing is, you got to remember, like the dictionary that was compiled by E. Wallace Budge that all Egyptologists brought from, he tell you that he wasn't the one that created it. He tell you it was the dermatologist that did it. So what he did is basically probably ask him, well, what does the word right here means in the English? And they gave him those definitions. He took that and ran with it, and then so-called translated his so-called Book of the Dead. And that's why you got all this old crazy outlandish stuff they done put up in here, the Greekish freakism and all that foolishness. And that's why it's gonna take us to come back and use some of the stuff that the dermatologist gave him, but put that Moorish measure on. You see what I'm saying? And you use that by simply, if they translated one word and just say it meant knowledge. So what we do is we take a thesaurus, and just like they chose particular words they want to put in there, we got the pen in our hand, so we have the right to transliterate it the way we transliterate it. It's the same thing if you transliterating and translate any particular text from a Bible to a Quran and so forth and so on. It's the choice of the author, what they use by definition. But again, he got his words from the dermatologist. So he can't properly claim the translation as his own. And like I said, in certain cases, they killed some of these people to conceal the fact that they were the true translators. You see what I'm saying? And Ptolemy did the same thing during his time. He made people, that was into the mastery of being able to create the glyphs, put his so-called quote unquote signature in certain things. So some of the buildings that we see as antiquities, we got to do study on them. Some of them come from the Ptolemaic era, some of the so-called temples. And that explains a whole lot if we go into that alone. And a question for you, Brother Bati Bey. And we showed you the pictures of the so-called hieroglyphs, or what they call sacred writings. And we showed you that alongside of the Hieratic papyri. What is that particular text that's described next to the Hieratic papyri called by the European? Islam.
It's called the cursive. What is it? I don't want to call it the Hieratic. It's not the Hieratic cursive, but it's the I can't think of the word right now, but it has to do with it's their determinatives or their understanding, their transliteration of it. Islam.
Okay. And I see where you're coming from, and that's a good enough answer, but we're going to give you the exact thing that they are called. So when you hear this, our ancestors didn't call it that. Again, we'll go back to it. They call it the literary text.
Okay.
This is called literary text, basically. Anytime you hear literary text, this is their transcription now. Remember, they transcribed this particular text.
If you're showing the screen, it's not showing.
Well, it's not. Thank you, brother. I forgot. I did cut it off. You too, right. I did cut it off. So what they are doing is that they transcribe, remember, this hieratic
Literary text
into these symbols. This is called the literary text, is what they call it. You see? Mm-hmm. And this is Chester Beatty papyri. So this is the actual script, hieratic, as they call it, but we call it what? The herein KEMET. You see? Mm-hmm. So again, that's the transcription of the what literary text.
Ain't that that looks like the pictorial?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And that's what they call literary text. Anytime you see that or hear that, that's what they referring to, which is not the original. Remember, these symbols, you know, were transcribed from the hieratic, what we call ray and KEMET. You see what I'm saying? This is the paper here. You can see it. This is what they create. And they got people head over heels for it, because people intrigued by them bunching up them symbols like that right there. And trying, you know, in their mind, this look like some fascinating artwork. You know, that's one thing, but to actually have people thinking that this is an alphabet, that's a crime. So you hid this, again, I'm gonna keep saying it, under this. So if you got people running around trying to transliterate this, they wasting their time, because all you have to do is go and find this. And this is what needs to be transliterated. So if you pull all these people talking about the Egyptologists up, and I done did it, you seen me going back and forth with some of them brothers. The one that claim they transliterating this and translating, you put this in front of them, they don't know what they're looking at. Why is that? Because they've been hoodwinked. They've been run amok. They've been led astray, chasing after gods in whom they know nothing. Islam. And I proved this. You know, if you go to some of them same brothers, they'll tell you, yeah, I read E. Wallace Budge and I accept his translation as the truth. So that means you too lazy to come together and do what we doing right now, what should have been done years ago. So we're gonna have our own transliteration of these messages.
And Brother Shaheed, they don't they be saying you made that part up, right?
Oh yeah, they say I made this stuff right here. I create, you made that stuff.
You made that up.
Yeah, I made this up, Mo. They love to say that, baby. That's the funny part about it.
So you're a time traveler too, then?
Yeah, I'm a time traveler. I mean, thanks for the credit. You know, I mean, I am exemplifying the purpose of Matheno in this new era and time. So, you know, I get it. Them ones, but that's what they do. Just like I was showing the ones the difference between the R and the L. You remember the brother said I put the R in there and the L, the one they were calling Tehuti a while back when I first started dialoguing with these ones. So they'll say anything, you know, but what they say is supposed to be right, even though they ain't showing no document. That's another thing. They can say what they want to say without no documentation, no sources, but they ask me for sources. When I show them to them, I created the source.
Bad Mama Jamma, you know.
Yeah, the European taught them well, didn't it? He taught them well how to jump through hoops and defend jumping through. Islam. So all right, grand measure, brother Bati Bey. You couldn't have said it more perfect than you did. I see our brother Abdul Hakeem Sincere Bey has his hand up. Islam, brother.
Angel, much gratitude, National Assistant Grand Sheikh. Again, I rise, I give all praises to Allah, honors to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, El Hasharif Abdul Ali. I give honors to our Moorish American government, our officials, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and most especially our citizens. You know, that this is a grand topic because, you know, remember, it is even when you go into any other, it is referred to the tongue, our tongue being able to bridle the entire body. So we give honors, we give praises to Allah, honors to our prophet, that we know the power in word, because we know word is logos, and logos is the perfect, that is the perfect word, which is Allah. You draw, and so even when you go back and you refer to how it's written in the Arabic, all the way back into the Hieratics and even transcribing all of the later things that was added on, the Dhamma and Kasara and all of these things to the Arabic, but actually taking it and seeing that Hebrew is not even it's not even that's not the correct word for that particular text, and Aramaic being the oldest that is able to refer, refer back to but also taking it back to the pro cyanitic. I just give honors to you for being able to keep the errors, because our prophets say this is a new era in time now, and I just give honors to you for putting everything, making sure that nothing is taken out of chronological order. I also give honors to our national assistant grand chairman, because I put a text out, and I brought forth la ilaha illallah, there is no God but Allah in Arabic, and then I also put wa adu ashadu and el hajj shefs ray up to Ali, which is we take that back to the menu netter of our language that that you brought forth, el hajj shefs ray up to Ali in our prayer, which is it takes it back to the original menu netter. And I just give honors to you that we are able to honor the abjad, the ABDGD, the ABDGD, the ABEGD, a thousand parts, and being able to bring this unity of our love to each other, because it's only that that's the only way that Allah is able to contribute to the support of our whole race. So much gratitude, Angel, for your grand demonstration. Islam, peace.
And Islam and peace, brother, for the measure. Praise be to Allah. And yeah, we definitely showed, we have proven, the brother Ibn Khaldun, who is notable Islamic scholar. That's where all the Arab scholars go to. He himself said that the Arabic comes from Mudar, which is synonymous with the Egyptian language, and so we proved that, and we showed exactly where it came from. And a lot of it we can see comes through hieratic, but it's mostly related. Arabic is mostly related to the Demotic text. We found that out as well. We proved that in our previous videos, and so we find the more deeper we go that these languages are in relation to each other. They had distinctive languages, but there was one universal alphabet and language that was there during the Tower of Babel, before the confusion came and the separation came. And we're going to get into that. That's actually our next phase. Probably in the line of this this hieratic bit, we'll probably go into some of that there and point that out. But nevertheless, we will go into knowing the difference between proto-Sinaitic pictorial script and what they call in hieroglyphics. We will show that actually the way that Europeans deal with the so-called quote-unquote hieroglyphics, they are dealing with it based upon what they came across in relation to dealing with proto-Sinaitic, proto-Canaanite, which was a pictorial script, that was actually adopted, by the Canaanites and the Israelites, in that particular form of writing, but the Egyptians themselves were not writing it in that way. And that's why there's so much confusion and people thinking that they wrote pictorially. The Canaanites created their pictorial measure from the symbols that they had, and in certain charts, they would actually have those Canaanite alphabet next to what they call the Egyptian alphabet, and they'll be calling them one Canaanite and one Egyptian, but they actually the same alphabet, and that's a whole nother measure. We'll get into it. It's created. Everything is created by Rome in the way that they don't remix certain things. So we making it plain so that our people will put these lessons in the proper perspective when they speak upon it. They don't have to guess. So Islam, is there any other more that would like to come for? Our sister Curta Bay. Come on forth, goddess and queen. You got the flow. Islam.
Islam. First, let me rise and give praises to the great God Allah. I give honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I give honors to Act One. I give honors to all my government officials. I give honors to you, National Assistant Grand Sheik, for this wonderful class this morning. And as I was listening, when I was listening to you, when you was going through everything, I was almost about to panic because I thought you had said you had already sent out the information that you was talking about, but then you come back and say you was gonna send that out to us, and that gave me a great big relief because I was like, I didn't get that email. Where's it at? Where's that at? I didn't get it. I didn't get it because I'm having trouble. Some of the emails, I think, well, you had sent something out before, and me and the National Grand Secretary of State, we didn't get it. So I was thinking you had already sent this out, and I didn't get it. So I was bothering Brother Edwards Bay gratitude for his patience because I want to know where's that email? Where's that at? But you say you go get that to us, so gratitude. But I just want to encourage my Moorish kin, and I'm just enjoying everything. Still working on writing my letters and my alphabets and going back over that script, what we went over in class last week. You know, trying to pick out the letters and trying to write them and put them in the abject order, especially writing the ones that change. But I also would like to encourage my Moorish kin because, like I said last week, I just got my book, the book you was reading out of, by Mustafa Guatala, The Ancient Egyptian Universal Writing Modes. When I got that book, everything that you're going over, that really helped bring everything into perspective. It really helped me, is what I'm saying. And I encourage our Moorish kin, probably most everybody got it. I didn't have it, but when I got it, I'm really enjoying it. I like the way he explained everything about the different styles of writing and stuff, and that's what I was trying to bring forth when I did my presentation last week, talking about the way the different people wrote it different ways, and it helped me to see. You know, I got a way of writing things. The way I write, your writing ain't gonna look like mine, so that really helped me, and looking forward to, I've been looking at the lessons that you brought up too. You got the different lessons in there, how we can go down and look at those lessons. It's got the script, and it take line by line, and it shows you the alphabet, but like you say, they showing the pictorial part of it, and we don't use that. And we use the alphabet because those are not alphabets. I mean, you have drilled that into us, and but I'm anxious to get that the one where you showed where the European, they got this pictorial thing, and then you got that script right up under the alphabet script. That's gonna be great because I'm anxious to get that and look at that, because if I hadn't learned anything, I know that them hieroglyphs, them pictorial things, I know that that's not no alphabet. You didn't, if you didn't drill anything in us, I know I can recognize. I ain't gonna go out there and say I know all of it, but hey, I can recognize the alphabet versus the pictures. Now, come on, I'm trusting the great God, the Lord, the prophet. You ain't gonna pull that on me. So gratitude, God, man. This is really helping me. What you do, gratitude with the patient, with your patience with us, especially me. And I just love y'all. And I'm, like I always say, hey, I'm having fun. I'm having fun. So gratitude, God, man, for letting me share. Peace and love.
Islam, and gratitude and peace and love. And yeah, that's a prime example, Goddess and Queen. You know, we have to emphasize that, because some of our people, when they go and read these European texts, it sounds so good to them. You know, they still will try to go along with the narrative of the European. They'll say, I'm crazy for telling them, you know, what's right.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Because they have fell in love. They fell in love. You know, we're going to say it again. They fell in love with what the Europeans said it was.
That's right.
You know, and I got books over here, like, for example, and I can actually read these books, and they're dealing with their little so-called transliteration from the symbol, and I can bypass that stuff when I'm reading this stuff because of the knowledge that I have. So like, I hear you over here, but I'm really looking at the transliteration.
Right.
Because I do know the transliteration in here is really from Hieratic, even though they put in symbols in here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we have to, that's our adept training. When we read these books, you know, we know that the hieratic came first. So we're gonna erase that garbage out when we go to here. I'm talking about the hieroglyphics came first.
Right.
We know that's a lie. We
Mhm.
know that anytime they talking about Greek came before the Demotic, we know that's a lie.
That's right.
You understand? So we overlook that stuff. That's how you basically separate the bones from the fish.
Right.
So when you go into these texts and you read certain things, you automatically know, no, man, this is high. And that's what we're gonna do. Like I said, we're gonna make it an exercise. You know what, we actually go in there and take, you know, these symbols, because they actually have them beside the hieratic language,
Mhm.
and transcribe the symbols back into the alphabet.
Okay.
You see
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Mhm. I got
And,
it.
you know, and create our actually own papyri. And that what that would do, that would be our exercise on how to memorize the letters.
Right. Right.
And then when you see ones up here demonstrating, trying to use these pictorial script, you can actually correct them on the spot when you become so familiar with them.
That's right.
You know, no, sir, that's not the symbol that you think it is. This is it right here. This goes into the hieratic, you know, and so that's how we got to do it to them. Treat them like they're in kindergarten.
That's right.
Because some of them think they know more.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean? Like I even have in this particular book, it's called Egyptian Hieroglyphs for Complete Beginners, right? And you know, they got the pictorial stuff in all up in here, but they give certain transliterations in words. Like we find the name Yesu in this language, but it is also, it's spelled Y-E-S-U. And this is actually the name of Yehoshua.
Mhm.
You see, a Kemetic root to it, basically.
Right.
And so, not saying that this language is based on the Yehoshua or the Piscean record, but this is before Yehoshua come manifest, because this is a little older than that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so they also use in spelling Yesu. You go into the sound shift and the Y, they change it to I. And then they have the S there, and this is without the vowel, so it's I-S-W. But when they transliterate it into a form and put the vowel in there, it's Y-E-S-U.
Okay.
So we know, according to our knowledge, the Y is interchangeable with the I.
Right.
So it says I-S-W, Hisu. But when you go into transliterating according to our understanding, Y interchangeable with the I, the E is added as a vowel in order for pronunciation purposes.
Right.
And then you have the S there. And last but not least, you have the letter W that's interchangeable with the letter U, which is how they come up with the vowels. And sometimes they'll change it with the letter O and so forth and so on.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So it's Yesu, but if you pronounce it with the Y, it's Yesu.
Yes. Sir. Mhm.
So it's two different what we call dialects. Yesu,
Right.
Yesu. And it means her son, basically. Her son. That's exactly what it means. You see? So this is just a prime example. Now on the side of this, they have what some people would call a determinative. And then they have, you know, a chick. Then they have a symbol of what would look like a grain of like a corn stalk. You know, another little symbol here in the reed symbol. This is what they are trying to say pictorially. This transliterates as, but we know the actual transliteration comes from hieratic.
That's
It
right.
didn't come from them symbols.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? And that has to be spoken of.
Islam.
And you know, we can't emphasize that enough. So that's a powerful demonstration.
Gratitude.
You know, gratitude and Islamism, and it's some more measures in here that they have too, but we'll get to it. We'll get to all of this stuff in due time. And like I said, you'll be able to spot this stuff and correct ones when they go to saying this other stuff they be talking about with these symbols and stuff. You know, so okay. Is there any other more that would like to come forth and give their portion? I think I seen our brother Marvin Edwards be there. Islam.
Islam, can you hear me, God man?
I can hear you loud and clear with divine ears.
Gratitude. Yeah, I just want to Yeah, I'm Dr. Elvis Bay, praise and honor have been given. Yeah, I just wanted to say, gratitude to you for all that you do. I mean, being a masterful teacher that you are, I mean, Dr. Curtis Bay was saying she appreciate you for being patient with her, especially. But I would say we all should, everyone in this class should appreciate you for being patient with each and every one of us, because none of us knew anything. Well, you brought this on the manifest, and you're actually getting us to learn. You know what I mean? And that's the most beautiful part. Every time I go into studying, and I say, wow, just like you had brought on the manifest about calling them the Ray and KEMET. You know what I mean? Now we can change that terminology from the hieratic to the Ray and KEMET. And so forth with the second and shut, the demotic, all these things. And it just goes back to what the prophet has brought us, you know what I mean? And you're just making us, giving us an opportunity to realize what the prophet brought us, what is actually within us, and giving us an opportunity to reveal it, to express it. And we just can't be, grateful enough. I can really go on and on, but yeah, I look forward to, going deeper into this. I just want to say gratitude, God, man, for allowing me to speak. Islam and peace. Oh, and also, I appreciate all the more that's showing up now, because this is a magnanimous job that we're taking on. We're gonna need all the help we can get. Gratitude.
Gratitude and Islamism, and yeah, that's a powerful measure, grand man. We give honors to you in the love thought. We got another measure too. We're gonna show our Moorish kin here. And Joseph Smith, the Mormon, he was stressing his own version, of his so-called translations that he had, because he was fascinated with Kemet as well. Now look at the papyri that Joseph Smith has, the Mormon now. Moors like to talk about Mormon and all that other stuff, but we ain't gonna get into that type of wordplay. We're gonna show you some of the documents though that Joseph Smith had. Look at the language that he had here. He was really fascinated. So the Mormons basically teach, branches of the Egyptian teachings in their own particular way. You see? He giving a breakdown here on where he got it from and showing what these books go back to. And actually, in line with what you stated, brother, we can prove that the prophet actually brought forth the methodology, of the Egyptian adept teachings, because he shows you how Yehoshua dealt with them within the chambers. He was told to go within, the charge of the master to find himself. Listen to the silent voice that speak within. So that was the prophet's methodology of teaching metaneta, or if you want to get into it, it's hieroglyphics. That's what he left us in the Moorish Holy Quran. But also understanding that the chapters of the life of Yehoshua and John are, Yahya, the harbinger, they all have to do with them coming up out of Kemet or being taught in Kemet. So that's the work of the Moorish Holy Quran is Kemetic just from that aspect. And we have to emphasize, like I keep saying, the rest of the chapters, which they like to talk about unto thee I grant and all this other stuff here, and these being the same type of documents and so forth and so on. But what they don't know is that the Tibetic Buddhists, who had the manuscript, would tell you that that document came from Akhenaten, the fourth of ancient Kemet. So that would say, again, as I emphasize it, that our Moorish Holy Quran is Kemetic in essence, is Egyptian in essence, based upon that alone. You see, that's what a lot of our people don't know. But yeah, you have a lot of these different, we see this is Hieratic here that Joseph have. And actually it's got some little translations in here. I'm pretty sure he called himself being the translator of it. But take a look at this stuff. This is all hieratic script. This is not cursive hieroglyphs. This is hieratic script that he have here. You know, it's talking about Osiris and, you know, all types of stuff he got in here. See, he has the bar here, the car, you see the pep, the serpent, and see a couple of things up there in some of this stuff. He talking about, for example, he said, out of that tangle of myth, I can only say that the deceased became very flexible in form, just as the phoenix was supposed to change. So they're talking about one dying and basically transforming. See the bar, the symbol of the bird right there that they put here, which is also synonymous with a portion in relation to dealing with what we call spirit man. You have the ka, you know, and you have, you know, the ba. See, it says the speech for taking the form of a swallow, words being spoken by Osiris. I am a swallow. I am a swallow. I am really a scorpion, the daughter of Re. Oh gods, how sweet is the fragrance of you. The fire which went up from the horizon. This made me think about the rise in the Kundalini energy and all that. It said, oh, you who were in the city, I bring him who guards his district. Give me your hand as I spend the day in the island of flaring up. I went on an errand and I returned with a report. This made me think about just reading this metaphysically, angels ascending and descending. You know, I went on an errand in ascension and I returned with a report. You know, this is why spirit man was given a soul to function upon the plane of soul. See, we're talking about the function of the boss spirit being lifted up to the plane of soul, dealing with car and then bringing that measure back. This is the angels ascending and descending upon the ladder, so to speak. You know, I can see that right there just by reading what he's saying here. This is automatically my metaphysic, chamber done basically open up, so to speak, open for me so that I might tell what I have seen. So this is one that is looked into the books of Allah's registry of remembrance, if we're looking at it from that standpoint. I've been able to sit in the presence of the God. Now we want to open up this measure and bring it forth. That's why we talk about opening up the way. Heru, a horse, is the controller of the barks. What bark? The boat of Ra, which deals with, again, that which one is able to take the journey into the plane of soul with. The prophet referred to that as an apparatus. If we get into it metaphysically, he took the Moors up above the sun, moon, and stars around the almighty throne of Allah. You see? And then it said, look, horse is the control of the barks, the throne, and I never read this here in totality. I'm just giving the interpretation as what I can see. The throne of his father has been given to him. The throne is what? Above the neck. You know what I mean? We can go all that. Look, Set, the son of Nut, is in fetters. You know, meaning that basically, when we say Set, you know, is in fetters, this is talking about the lower self. One has put the lower self in bondage and under control, locked that demonstration up in the basement somewhere. You know, so this one, it says that Set, the son of Nut, in fetters when he would act against me. Man, we can go on and on and on, but this is a powerful demonstration in and of itself. This is just what I see, but I was really just pointing out, you know, the hieratic, but I'm gonna have to go through here and really read this right here. It's really interesting that the Mormons, you know, teach this, but we do know that they also have some Masonic roots. So it's not strange. So this is basically some of the things that he done learned in secret, you know, and tried to bring it forth in his own way, so to speak. So these are, you know, different papyri. And you see all of his papyri is written in hieratic, basically. You know what I mean? So that's a male still. That's a male still. So yeah, man, it's just so much. I also had another drawing over here. And this was actually, and this is coming from, this is a hieratic wisdom text, basically. And you can find this in Chicago's institution. You know, they got a lot of this stuff right here. But let me open it up. I'm gonna open it up in a second. I'm just trying to pull it up to the script that I'm trying to get involved with, because actually it gives something similar to what we was already just going through. Some of the same signs look like they put a little more clarity on them, and they give definition of certain words here. Okay, so let me share my screen again. Okay, and there you go right there. And so they went into grammar of some of these so-called symbols here. Notice they got the symbols there. We already know, you know, we can transliterate these things back into the Hieratic, you know, as opposed to accepting them as they are. So we look at these as markers. So they were showing in this table different descriptions and of certain signs, you know, as they had put them up here. Same thing they was doing in the other script, the comparisons. We see the cursive hieroglyphs that they're mostly dealing with here. In the bottom of this particular measure, this is mostly just dealing with cursive hieroglyphs and hieratic. We can see, not hieratic, cursive hieroglyphs and pictorial script. They actually come down here and you can see the words. You know, we already know Mehet, you know, Mabeh, Messe, you know, Mehdi. You know, we see these different measures here. If we're looking at it, and then they have the definitions that they're going into. So, you know, we can do this right here just based on the knowledge that we have. We can already see how we pronounce these things based on the knowledge that we have been given. You know, so that's how advanced we have become in this demonstration. Not even fully getting into the transliteration. We can go right in here and read these things or pronounce them out by the basic knowledge we have. Matter of fact, let me call my brother Marvin Evans Bay back to the floor. Brother, how would you speak this into the manifest right here, this particular measure?
The whole thing?
Yeah, how would you bring that in? You can go little bit by little bit.
Okay, it's gonna be kind of rough.
And this is demotic too, by the way.
Right, so those are A's in the front, right?
There you go. See what I'm saying? See how he picked up on that more?
So air, I mean, header.
Yep, header. Right.
Yeah. Now that H, that's we're gonna go with that as an H. That's not a K, because the K will be a line up under there, right?
That's right. Correct. That's correct.
Okay.
If it was on top, then you would have seen the H, you know, going into the K. Go ahead.
Okay, so weta.
Yes, sir. Arif weta. Yes, sir.
Net not kissing.
Yes, sir. Net not kissing.
Yeah, yes, sir. Sin. I'm trying to get that H or B.
Oh, that's an N.
Yeah, I see the S and N, and what's that behind the N?
That's a B behind.
That's a B.
Yes, sir.
The net, Sineb, Sineb.
Sineb Ray.
Oh, Ray. Okay,
yes, sir.
Right. Makes sense. Ray. Ray Sineb.
Yes, sir.
Ray. Yes, sir.
Sineb Ray Arsenef.
The Arsenef.
You see, and so basically, you know, they have the transliteration of it. They break it down piece by piece, like they always do, you know. And he is fearsome while cursing, you know, to be fearsome, you know. I mean, they just go into many different breakdowns of it. They took portions out of it. But this is how easy it is just dealing with that aspect. You know what I mean? Like we normally do when we go through it. And so this is just one of those papyries that show you different expressions and forms as well. And like I say, we're gonna get different measures to the Moorish kin to bring forth the mode of the homework that we have to bring on the manifest. But I just wanted to show, you know, that we already there. You know what I mean? Islam. So, yeah. Is there any other more that would like to come forth and give their portion? Great job, Brother Marvin Epplesby.
Gratitude, Islam.
Gratitude, Islam. All right, going once. Going twice. And you're indeed thrice blessed. So Moors want to give honors to all of you who have come forth today, giving your measures, you know, as you have brought them forth from our Father's treasures, and your due diligence is most definitely respected. You know, we honor you for all that you do and all that you will do. You know, and let me share the screen here, because I'm gonna end up sending this out to our Moorish kin. And I have many of these lessons, you know, different portion. This actually tells you this is the papyrus of Deorbany, or Deorbane, so to speak. The tale of the two brothers, Bata and Anpu. You know, then it goes into basically showing what was presented here, you know, in full. They tell you where it's kept at in the British Museum. You can go and do research on it if you want to. It was prepared by the scribe Inanna of Memphis, what we call Manafa. Manafa is the proper name of Memphis, who lived in the time of Seti II. You see? And so this is the fullness of the actual text that they have, the portion in the hieratic. This is the first portion that they begin to deal with the transliteration. You see JR, you know, which we already know how these measures come on the manifest. Hieratic is always written from right to left. You see? So you start from here and then you go all the way over here. So they started with, you know, this particular portion. You see it here? See it there? See the letter there? They started with that and they're working their way over. Now they would tell you this is the pictorial expression. So isolate that marker. Don't even pay attention to it. It will come a time where we start transliterating these things back into the hieratic expression. You know, but then you have the other next measure that come behind it. You know, here, this MNTF, you can see it right here. You know, the MNTF, all you got to do is go back to your hieratic alphabet to confirm that's what it is. You see the JR here, this most likely is a bilateral. So we'll send that measure out to you. You'll be able to go into certain things and see certain things. Some things you already be able to identify with. You see here, we're not going to deal with, again, the pictorial. There you have it again, the hieratic script. You can see right here what's being pointed out. This particular portion here with the alphabet, you know, and it's going over to this area right here. You know, so by the time you get done, you know, by comparison, looking at this and looking at the transliteration, you can actually put your own sound there. A lot of times, like I say, you can put the, you know, E in between it if you want to, you know, like hertu, you know what I mean? Sinsinu, you know, wah, you know, minetef. You see, this is just basically me going off the head. Moot. You see the symbol of the woman. Some people say, this is the mother, this is indication, you know, and all that right there. We ain't getting involved in all that foolery. What I want to do is, again, get us more familiar with the actual script as opposed to the pictorial, you know, and we'll actually be able to correct ones and bring them on home. So by the time you get through dealing with these things letter by letter, and you get down here all the way to the end of, you know, this particular portion, because this is just one lesson. This is the whole of the sentence that has been compiled. So we want our family to put the vowels in between this. and come back and pronounce it to us, basically, is what we're going to end up having the Moors do. But this also, what you can do if you want to know the meaning of this, you can actually use your Demotic script and look these particular words up in Demotic, and they will be helpful, as well in defining certain words, because all we have is transliteration here without the full definition per se. You see? So same thing. Then it goes to the next line and you get the same drawing, and then they have all these different measures on here, a lot of them Unicodes and all that right there. One may be able to trace the Unicode and get the actual definition of the word. But nevertheless, we just showing you, what it is, the exercises that will make us familiar, even more familiar with the Hieratic. And then these things gonna start jumping out the page. Y'all know how I do. Just like we go through it. And I got many of these particular lessons. This is just one, breaking down this particular text, by portion by portion. So we're gonna get that to our Moorish kin, and we definitely want to say gratitude for all of the works that you all have brought on the manifest. And we love you, Moorish kin. And before we go, just before we leave, is there any other question that one may have before we make a departure, that one may have before we make departure? I see Brother Bati Bey is
Yes.
open. Islam?
Islam, do you have my new email?
No, sir. I think you may have to email me. I'm just sending it out through the master email list.
Okay. All right, I'll send it out to you.
Email me at egyptianadept.com, and then I try to just include you in the email once I begin to send these things out. Islam?
Islam.
Yes,
Islam.
sir. Gratitude, Grand Man. All right, I see Golden Ashley Smith Bay. Islam, Grand Man. What's the draw with you, brother?
Well, I was doing something, but I was trying to get in when you were saying countdown. But so we always rise out of the great God of love, because we are divine family. And as I hear you talk of this hieroglyph and all these things, growing up in night time, they used to have one called the AEIOU. Sometime why, as I would say, so many things that we go through and we're hearing these lessons and things, and the hieroglyph, as I say, even within this movie, when Superman was flying all these things on the wall, you didn't understand it back then, but now that we understand it now, in this new era of time, because you see, there was a saying that our sign will be still there hanging on these walls and all these things, because when you watch all these things with all, as I said, the pyramid and all these things, there's so many signs, symbols and all these things, and so much of these ones trying to even study them, figure them out, and as I say, we are the one who create them, make them and everything. As I hear you say, we have to just remove the H. That was something different that I learned when you said that tonight. So if I was going to school and then was teaching these things, imagine what we would be doing. So now it's a new era of time, because we have to go and master the mind, like you say, that samatha, the worship of the mind. So we have to go study all these lessons. As I said, it was all ours from the beginning, and now coming back within the new era of time. So with that, I say, divine family, one love.
In Islam, and one love to you as well, brother, for all that you do, Grand Man, and just bringing the love thought on the manifest. And it's just an honor to be present with our Moorish kin in this new era in time, and to draw upon these lessons, as we always say, one can't get strength from weak sources, and most of our people don't even know that, they have a weakness, and their weakness is almost like this Eurocentric philosophy has become their kryptonite, so to speak. And it's breaking, the very fabric of the hearts and minds of our people down. You know what I mean? And so there are many different measures that one can come forth, to demonstrate. But the key is that the Moors themselves have to wake up and teach our people everything it is that's necessary for them to learn in order to bring a grand draw into the manifest. So we have exposed a lot of these ones out here many times, and a lot of them are content with where they are, but we're gonna give our people the truth. So that being said, we want to say gratitude. Thank you, Moors, for coming forth. We will be getting these drawings out to our family so that they can have a grand insight, you know, and we're gonna exercise our 5 and stay alive. So we just say gratitude, Moors, and y'all can take us to third heaven now. Islamism without the schism.
Islamism without the schism. Islam. Well, another grand Egyptian Adeptus Research Sultanate class, sponsored by our Moorish American government. Host instructor Dr. Shedo Minty Muhajjasef Shuel for bringing the grand measure for the executive rulers. Islam. January the 15th, 1929. Warning from the prophet to be read at every meeting. I hereby inform all citizens that they must end all radical agitating speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We offer peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We offer love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any citizen or group of citizens who hold malicious feelings toward the government or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing the turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet, Noble Drew Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the government is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the government. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways by orders of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Chapter 25, the Holy Covenant of the Asiatic Nation. Islam. Ye are the children of one father provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother have given you suck. Let the bonds of affection therefore unite thee with our brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. And when ye separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all in your love to each other. Islam. Go in peace, mighty Moors. This meeting has been closed according to Act 2 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Islam.
Great class, family.
Shalom, Morris.
Dr. Shaheed.
Very powerful class.
Great class.
Very powerful class.
Islam, family.
Hey, I see you holding on to that staff over there, everything.
Yes, sir. Man, my leg is killing me.
Islam.
Islam, man.
Man, that's not it.
Yes, sir.
All right, Moors.
Islam.
Hakeem.
See you in Sunday school class. Peace and love.
It's my family.
Yes, sir. All right. Shalom, Morris.
Sunday school family.
Peace and love.